Welcome to Gas, Mass, and Hand Grenades. It's Metal Madness Jeff here with you today. Man, I got to tell you, I've been nervous about this one, but I just got to talk to this gentleman before we go live, and he's the super coolest guy in the world. So there was no reason to be nervous, but I'm still nervous. Today, I'm joined by one of my personal musical heroes, and that's not a joke. That's no hyperbole there. This man's music, this man and his band's music has meant a ton to me ever since I first heard Out of the Silent Planet in 1988. He is the frontman, co-lead vocalist, and bassist for legendary hard rock band King's X. In addition to that, he's released 5 solo albums under his own name and under the Poundhound moniker. He's also released 3 albums with George Lynch and Ray Luzier as KXM, 2 albums with Eric Gales and Thomas Pridgen as PGP. He's also got 2 albums to his name with his blues band, the Grinder Blues Band. Numerous guest vocalist spots, one of which stands out to me big time, Lines in the Sand by Dream Theater. And not to mention all that stuff, as if that's not enough, he's also a regular touring member of the Hendrix Experience. And in 2019, and I'm going to ask him about this, he went out with Wayne Kramer's MC5 when Wayne did sort of a retro, I guess, tour of the MC5 stuff, and he played with Kim Thayil on that. So without further ado, let me introduce to you a living legend, no joke, no hyperbole, Doug Pinnick. Doug. And the crowd goes wild, right? How are you, man?
Hi.
How you doing?
I'm doing pretty good.
All right, cool. We had a little mix up in our timing getting you on here, and everything's cool.
Yeah, my fault.
We're just going to roll through it, and we're just going to head on out. Now, as I told you before we went live here, we've had some interaction in the past. I'm not that crazy fanboy, so I'm not all over you at shows and whatnot, but we have met a couple times. And the one that I wanted to bring up, which is a very interesting one to start things off with first was, and I have props here, is in 1989 when you guys went out for your inaugural tour for Gretchen. You played a place in Philly that I'm from Pennsylvania, by the way. I'm about an hour and a half northwest of Philly. And so Philly is, my home base for shows. And you played a place called the Empire Rock Club.
Oh,
Do you remember that? Do you remember this gig? I'm going to hit you with this story. I want to see if you remember this. This is September 24th, 1989. Do you recognize what this is?
Jesus. I can't see that.
It's a Mac slip. That's what the old ATMs used to be called, a Mac slip. Okay, remember that? This right here, do you recognize that?
That looks like, I guess I'll put my glasses on.
Yeah, you might have to.
Looks like my name. Yeah, that's the way I used to write my name.
That is your autograph, and then
I've gotten a bit fancier since then.
Has it? Has it really? I got a scribbled Ty Tabor right there.
There
too.
It is. His never changes.
This was all I had on me to get an autograph from you guys. But here's the weird part: we get to the venue, and this is a venue I've never seen a rock show at before or since. I think it was like just there for a summer and disappeared. You guys are in there blasting. We're hearing you. There's a whole bunch of us mounting up outside. And the next thing you know, it's just silence. Dead silence. You guys come walking outside. You guys had blown the PA. Do you remember that at all?
Yeah, we didn't play that night, did we?
You did not play that night.
I sat out in the parking lot and hung out with everybody for like 2 hours.
You were out there I was just going to say, you hung out and signed everything. Right. And if you recall, you won't recall me, but I'm the big mouth that said, "Hey, Ty, do you have an acoustic with you?" And he's like, "Yeah." I said, "Do an acoustic show." And you guys looked at each other like, "Yeah, I don't think that's going to happen."
Nah, at that point in our life, we were not ready to do acoustic. I mean, we were ready to pound people's brains out.
Hell yeah, man. But my first King's X show was a non-show. You guys did not play. You couldn't play.
Yep. I was wondering, because when you said the Empire Club, I'm thinking, okay, not the Trocadero. Let me see what
No, not the
happened.
Trop.
And then I remember that show that we didn't play that. So I was waiting for you to say we didn't play it, because I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
that was back in the days when you had the Killer Hawk, and we were all much, much younger men back then, Joe.
Yeah, I was trying to be a rock star.
Dude, you were so gracious, all you guys. And I have met you guys many, many times. Jerry always seems to never be around when I meet you guys. It's usually you and Ty. He always
It's
seems to
amazing.
slip out the door. Or
It's usually the opposite, really. So
is it really?
You caught us on an off night then, because usually it's me and Jerry and Ty will take off.
Oh, really? Okay. But conversely, I went to see a good friend of mine, and you guys opened for this band, Porcupine Tree. Remember that?
Yeah, we toured with them. What a great time we had with them.
Yeah, great guys. I worked for them for a while, and back in the early 2000s, and I went to see them down at the Stone Pony in Asbury Park, and I'm standing there, and I look to my left, and guess who's standing right next to me?
Me?
No, Mr. Gaskill.
Oh,
I'm like, you're Jerry Gaskill. He looks at me and goes,
okay.
Yeah, we ended up talking for like 20 minutes.
Awesome.
Super sweet guy. You guys have always been super fan friendly and amazing to your fans. And so you especially too. I mean, but
I'm the nice guy in the band. No.
Are you? Nah, come on now.
I'm just being stupid.
You guys are all super killer, man. Well, look, let me get into some questions here. We want to talk about the 13th studio album by King's X, which came out in September.
Wow, it is 13th, huh?
It is 13th studio album. We're going to get to that, but we're going to kind of do that at the end. If you don't mind, I want to take you back a little bit, if you don't mind.
Let's go.
All right, man. So here's what I got for you. What are your first memories as a child? Let's go there first. What are your first memories as a child of music, and how that music, and who you might remember, and how that music might have affected you as you grew up into adolescence and into your 20s and decided to become a professional musician?
I can say it this way. My mom said, before I could talk, when she would turn the record player off, I would start crying and start yelling, "Give me yay, give me yay, give me yay." And she said she didn't know what I was saying, but she knew that I wanted to turn the record player back on. And she said at that point she was curious as to what I would grow up to be like.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And that's what she said to me. That's probably one of the only childhood stories I know that my mom has ever told me about myself. And I guess the first time, well, I mean, growing up, being with my great grandmother who raised me, we went to church every Sunday, and there's a piano there. So I've always been around a piano. I don't know the day I saw one or put my finger on one, but I remember, whenever I could get away with it, I would get on it and start banging on it. And they'd start yelling at me and tell me to get off the piano and stop making noise. But every time I got on a piano, when I was a little child, if you gave me about 2 minutes and I started playing harmonies and I started making up little chords.
Wow.
And I would sit there go, wow, that's so cool. And then they'd say, Dougie, stop playing that piano, let's go. And I'd have to get up and leave. And that's as far as I've ever got with that. My family didn't realize I had a gift, and they were not encouraging at all. They weren't discouraging either. They did not discourage me. It was just like they didn't pay attention that I was interested in this stuff. So I don't really remember the first time. I know that I found out probably when I was about 40 years old that my aunt, my dad's sister, and I met my dad when I was 14, so I didn't know his family well, but I found that his sister was perfect pitched and been playing piano since she was 3. And
Wow, no shit.
yeah, and so I figured, well, if it ran in the family, I probably had something going on there, but my family didn't see that. My dad's mother actually put her on a piano, and actually my dad's mother said that she prayed that God would give one of her kids the gift of piano, and she believes that God gave her that gift. You know, it's
Okay.
the whole family religion thing. But it just runs in the family as far as I'm
But
concerned.
did you sing in the choir as a young guy, or?
I sang anywhere, anytime, any place, as long as I can remember. I was
Right.
singing along to the radio. I was singing along at church. I was singing in the choir. I was singing in the car. From the time I can remember I think one time I realized it was annoying sometimes when I was a teenager. I think, no, yeah, maybe I was about 18 or 17, and me and my friends were going to go somewhere, and I said, oh, can't wait, can I go? And my friend who was driving said, yeah, but just don't sing, okay?
I
And
have that same problem.
yeah, I just sang as loud as the radio all the time. Didn't care if
Yeah.
anybody's around. I was that abandoned with that this whatever this thing is that I was doing all the time. And a lot of my friends, I've apologized through the years as to how self-centered I was when I feel in that situation where it was just all about me. I wanted to hear this song. I brought my own records to the parties. I played the songs that I liked. I was just obsessed, and people just let me do it, and no one challenged me. And I apologized to a lot of my friends later and some relatives, cousins that were my age. And they said, no, Dougie, it's okay. We knew you were all into that stuff, and we just let you do it.
Yeah.
They just saw me just, I was obsessed, and they let me do it. So
Well, they saw you had a passion, I suppose, right?
yeah, I guess
Yeah.
so. Because I remember I played a song that I had written, and I made a demo of it. And this is around the time King's X was happening. So I wasn't that young. And I
Mm-hmm.
played this song for my cousin, and she listened to half of it and stopped it and said, Dougie, why are you playing this for me? The world needs to hear this.
Ah.
And the way I learned now years later why she said that was because I was looking for her approval on this song, and she's
Yeah.
looking at me going, why? I don't care. I get it. She didn't care. She already knew that I could do that, and
Right.
she's not a fan. She's been
Right.
seeing me screaming all my life, and I could see the annoyance in her voice as she said that to me. There's so much that I've learned looking back at the way people nurtured me and the things that they said and did that I might have misunderstood, but it affected my life in many ways, regardless.
When did you pick when did you pick up the bass, or when did you pick up the bass, or did you become a bassist because you were a frustrated guitarist, or because?
I've told this story 1,000 times, I
Yeah, I
think,
know.
but no, 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 no. I'm not saying not to. I'm just saying this is something that I think everybody would know. And I was about 7 or 8. I was over at my cousin's house, and she put on this record called "Why Do Fools Fall in Love" by Frankie Lyman and the
Oh yeah,
Teenagers.
yeah.
And the bass line, all of a sudden, my ear went straight to the bass line. And for some reason, I became obsessed with this bass sound. And from that day on, seems like everything I listened to, no matter what it was, I would hone in on the low end. Even on a piano, the grand piano, the low notes, they just sounded so crystal clear. And when I heard a clavinet, and the low notes were like, I love the chime and the clang in the note. And then I played baritone saxophone in 7th grade.
Okay.
And a baritone sax is
Yeah, the real. Yep.
it had this bassy thing. So I think that I've always been attracted to that register of sonics. And so yeah, bass has always just been in my mind. I would walk around the house with a broom, playing like I was playing bass,
So when
until
you
I was 22. And a friend of mine said, Doug, if you love playing bass so much, why didn't you play it then? Why didn't you buy one? With an annoying sound in his voice again, because
right, right.
I must have been so obnoxious sometimes. All I
I
ever
can't
talked
imagine that, dude. I
oh
mean,
all
I
I
just
ever
cannot
wanted
imagine it.
all I ever talked about was playing bass. And this one guy finally says, well, if you want a bass so bad, why don't you buy one? That's how he said it to me.
Yeah.
And I don't remember how I got to that point, but that's when it dawned on me that this little old black boy in the ghetto can actually buy one. I just
Did you
had to get
remember
it.
your first bass? Do you remember what you got?
Oh, yeah, but I remember I had to get a job and I didn't have one. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to get one because I was in the ghetto. Nobody had no money. And my best friend comes over one day. He had a job and he bought this little cheap ass bass for his girlfriend for Christmas and said, here, take this and play it for a while. I'll come back and get it right before Christmas. And he came to my house to get it twice. And I wouldn't give it to him. And he let me keep it. He let me keep it as a cheap K bass, probably cost him $20.
Oh,
I played that thing for a couple of years. And then one day, I don't know how I got my P bass, but me and my best friend got in a car wreck and he got a settlement of $6,000 and he bought me a P bass.
Really?
Wrecks off. He passed away Christmas 3 years ago.
Now, what year is this? Early 70s or?
Yeah, it was 1970, 2, 3, maybe 74 or 5.
Wow. Now you were born in Joliet, right? Joliet,
yes,
Illinois.
Yes.
Is that where you grew up and from most of your formative life, your early years?
Yeah, I left that area when I was 30. And,
okay.
And that's where I met King's X in Missouri.
So that's when you went down to Springfield then.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what took you down there? Was it the Petra thing or the?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got an opportunity to play with Petra. Yeah, I went.
But how did they learn of you though? How did they learn about you?
All my life I've had a reputation. The guy sings. I sang in front of everybody, anybody, anywhere, and so there was always a buzz about me, be it small.
Right.
But and so I think Greg Volz heard of me through Resurrection Band, maybe, because my band Servant opened for all the big Christian rock bands at the time, which were not that big. I mean,
I was going to say not many of them, right?
There weren't many. There was like 5 or 6, and they weren't playing big places, just churches. Right. But we opened for a lot of those bands in the Chicago area. My Christian band called Servant,
right?
And we were together for like 7 years, I guess. And the guys decided they were all getting married and they're having kids. And they decided that it was God wanted them to spend more time with their families and not so much time with the band. And so we decided not to practice, but twice a month and maybe do one show a month or maybe once every 2 months.
Right.
And I remember going back to my house where I lived at the time and I sat down and I said, well, God, I'm working a job I hate. I'm not happy. We're not playing. This is all I want to do. I'm done. Open the door and I'm out of here. In Jesus' name, amen. A few days later, Petra calls up and one of the keyboard player and says, hey, we're looking for a bass player because our bass player quit. What do you think? And I go, yeah.
Fortune smiles on the bold, right?
Yeah. So I quit my job and left the church and quit the band and everything all in a day and took off within a few days, man. Packed all my stuff up in my car. Gave away what I didn't have. I got all my records, my record player, my guitars and stuff, and loaded up and went to. Actually, I went to Springfield, Missouri, where the keyboard player lived, and then I stayed there a month, and the band broke up.
Yeah, I was gonna say the band broke up of all shit, right?
And so I called Greg up and I go, what do I do? He said, well, just come on down to Springfield. I'm gonna be playing with Phil Kagi.
Right.
So I went, what?
Great
so I said, okay, here we go. So I hopped in my car and loaded up and went down to Missouri. And he got me a house there, a little house to rent. And, we went off with Phil Kagi for about 1.5 years, something like that. And that's where I met Jerry. Right. And then Phil dropped us because we were just some hired hands for the time being. And
right.
So I'm there going, what do I do? And I said, Jerry, want to stick together? He goes, yeah. And so we started looking for guitar players. And through
then
it all, we found
slowly
Ty.
but surely you run into Ty along the way. Ty opens for you guys.
Yeah, with Phil Keggy. And well, there was another guy. There's this band that I went out on the road with for a month. They needed a bass player. And the guitar player and me became big friends. And he moved down to Missouri and moved in with me. And he was a guitar player. And so we decided, him and Ty and Jerry and I, we were going to be a band. And so we tried that out. Dan McCullum. He quit the band after the first gig. He just said, he said this. He says, "You guys are a band. I'm not a part of this."
Okay.
And he went home and got married, and he's happy. And then we got Kurt, one of Ty's best friends, who played guitar. And so, you know, we were a dual guitar band for about 3 years.
And this is when you're the edge at this
yeah,
point, right?
Yeah. And then Ty, and then Kurt quit with the same thing, saying, "I don't feel like I'm a part of this. You guys have something going on, and I just don't feel like I could fit in." And we go, okay. And we just decided to stay together as 3-piece band. Make a long story short.
Then you change your name to Sneak Preview.
Yeah.
And you do an album. How did that come about?
Well, after Kurt left, we were pretty heavy doing we were like a Thin Lizzy type Police band, if you want to, somewhere in between that.
That's an interesting juxtaposition.
Yeah, and it was a college town. There was no metal down there. I didn't really know there was metal. I kind of heard of Judas Priest and Iron Maiden, but I never really played the records. I mean, I was that ignorant of that genre. Right. And I hadn't listened to anything by by AC/DC since I left Chicago, so I didn't know what they were doing after Bon Scott died. And so we were listening to the Pretenders and Sex Pistols and who else, the Clash and stuff like that. And the really wimpy pop music, the pogo music, that stuff that you pogoed around with. And so that's how we started writing music. They got real poppy and real pretty and real happy, and that was Sneak Preview. Oh my God! I didn't even sing like a soul person. I even sang like a white boy with no vibrato and everything.
Well, let me ask you a question about that album. Do you kind of hate that album, or how do you feel about it?
We hated that record until, well, Ty and Jerry probably still do. Probably a couple years ago, I got really stoned and had a couple glasses of wine and put it on and said, "Listen to this record. You haven't listened to it in 40 fucking years."
Right.
And it's like, come on, you've been away from it that long. See what you think. I loved it. I was going to
say, dude, it's not a bad album. You can hear the seeds of what King's X become.
That's what I sat there thinking. We were a good band even back then. And,
oh yeah.
And I see that now. It was like, because people are always, whether they liked our music or not, or liked the band or not, they always said there was something special about when we played live.
Oh yeah.
Something happens, and that's always been the magic. We've never been able to put that on a record, and we've never been able to do that other than live. When we open for people, the reaction has always been the same. They're just like, but after that, they don't buy the records, and it's not like, okay, it's the next big thing and everybody's getting all behind it.
I only pulled these 3, but I have every single record except, and I have to make an admission, I don't have the new one. I'm waiting for Amazon to deliver it right now.
Awesome. Have you heard it though?
I've heard the whole thing. I've listened to it several times. It came out right when I had some medical issues, and I couldn't really focus on going out and buying it. So it's here. It might show up. I might put you on solo and run out to check the mailbox.
I hope so.
But
yeah. So you're one of the trusty troopers, man. We have a group of people that follow King's X that keeps us alive and keeps us going and buys everything.
I've seen you 12 times, and that may not be a crazy amount, but I mean, I go all the way back to the very beginning.
That's crazy. I haven't seen anybody that many times, so come on, I love it.
There you go, man. So, all right. So moving on real quick, because I want to keep it moving for your sake. You guys moved to Houston then to get involved with, excuse me, with a Star Song Records in 1985.
Right.
You did writing for an artist called Morgan Cryer. How did that all happen? What was the story there?
Let me push this button here real quick. Wayne Donahue, who was one of the executives for Star Song Records, which is a Christian label that was a offshoot from Word Records. It was a big deal. Wayne had heard of us from somebody because we were all Christians at that time. And Ty went to the Christian college there. And Jerry had went there for a semester or so, but then he worked for the Assembly of God, the headquarters. He worked in the office or something. And so we were known in the Christian community. There's this rock band, because at that point, there were hardly any Christian rock bands. And so anytime any of us ever heard of anybody that could be Christian in a rock band, everybody's like, their ears are to the ground, wanting to know more about him. And then I think also us playing with Phil Kagi, we did a whole tour across the U.S. playing churches and stuff. So those people who were there, the Christian musicians, they didn't forget us.
Right, the exposure started to happen.
Yeah, especially that black guy with the mohawk that spins around and the churches said, "Don't come back."
Yeah, that guy.
So Wayne called me and said, "Doug, this is the Lord speaking. Aren't you tired of playing bars for the devil? Why don't you play for Jesus?" And I said, "What?"
Wow.
And then he started laughing.
Oh, he was kidding around.
And he said, "Just joking." He said, I says, "What's up?" And he says, we have this artist. He's a young guy. He's really good looking. He's like our teeny bop Christian guy. His name is Morgan Cryer. And he's got a song charting and he needs a band. And we're going to put a band together for him. You guys want to be his band? And this is, what can we do? And he said, "Well, I'll move you guys to Houston and put you on a salary for 3 years." And that they had the ins to A&M Records and said that they would do everything they could to get us a regular record deal because we told them we didn't want to be on a Christian label.
Right.
We were always, that was the biggest thing that I didn't want to do, is be on a Christian record label. I just knew that it was not for me.
I'm assuming that maybe the reason is not so much whether you're agnostic, atheist, or a believer or not, but because it really cattle shoots you into one way. You're not going to get outside those parameters.
It took away all my freedom.
Right.
And it took away all my creativity, Right. And so at that point, I wanted to be able to go out into the world and play music like everybody else and deal with the bullshit,
right,
like everybody else does. This Christian cocoon that I was taught to stay inside, to play my Jesus music with all the other Jesus people, at the Christian churches, and stay in that little bubble. World, that safe world.
Bubble. Yeah.
And I've never been. The truth of the matter is, I don't think I've ever been in it. I tried to. Most of my life, I tried to fit in to that world and believe the best, and to the point where I thought I was a better Christian than most. It was like, I'm finding out people are doing stuff that I wanted to do and didn't do because I knew it was wrong, in my faith. And it just, I just felt, I just didn't understand all of it, and anything that didn't make sense to me always caused me to find reasonable doubt to get it out of my life, and not just Christianity or religion or anything, just anything in life, whether it's food you're eating or things that hurt you. I want to live a good, prosperous life and be happy, and not happy in a happy way, but in a way where I'm doing what I do and I'm okay with it, and I want to keep on doing it, and that's where I'm at in my life now. But anyway,
so you're doing Morgan Cryer, and you get this contract. Yeah. Was it a contract for 3 years?
Yes, and so we're on contract, and we went out and played one tour, and the churches would not let us come back. They said we rocked them motherfuckers too hard. We rocked them. Oh my God! We came out. You can still pray in the USA. Oh man, that song rocked so hard. So we wrote. Me and Ty wrote a couple songs for him for his new record, and one of the songs charted. I think it was the song Ty wrote with him. Got a little Christian airplay, which was cool too. So I guess down the line somebody saw that, and that which I keep forgetting about those little things that happened.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So
Now, did you guys have publishing on that, or was that owned by the guy that took
yeah,
you down there?
I think so. I think I actually got some checks from that so long ago,
Yeah,
$3
right,
or something. Who knows? You know.
right, right.
But wow, those are the days.
Well,
Wow.
so you end up at that point though. Then you end up hooking up with ZZ Top's production manager, Sam
Yes.
Taylor, and this guy
Yeah.
becomes sort of a Svengali for you, takes you under his wing.
Right.
And I know I'm interested to hear you speak about Sam. Now, I don't, is he still alive?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. We haven't talked to him. Well, I every now and then we'll text each other, maybe once a year or something. But there's very little communication. It's
Right.
just just what happened, and what it is, what it is.
Well, would
Um,
you at all credit him for helping you guys get to where you went, or is it,
I,
how do you view that now?
I believe this. We would have got to wherever we were supposed to get without him, but wherever we got with him, he was a good part of it.
Okay.
Some of his work ethics. He worked us. He worked us hard. After a band
Yes.
that's been together for 10 years at least, or 9 years, at that point we were like playing bars every night for hours, so we were spitfire tight.
Right.
And we had about 30 originals, and we could play them at the drop of a hat, no problem. What he did was he really made us dissect our music and made us tear it down and build it back up. And the thing was, I guess it was he helped us, or for me anyway, I guess. Well, how do I put this? He gave us a different aspect on playing. What he did was, like, for instance, the song "Born to Be Loved." Well, for instance, I would say actually the first two records, I could say we could almost do every one of those songs by just standing up and playing them without even going over them once.
Mm-hmm.
We might slop through them, but because we practice those songs 8 or 9 hours a day over and over again. He did that like we were football players. He
Okay.
grilled us and yelled at us. I mean, we'd play a song for 3 hours, the same song.
Drill sergeant.
And yeah, he was a drill sergeant, and we didn't understand, but we did it. We didn't know any better. He came in as the guy that was going to make us the Beatles, and he believed that he had something special, and he was going to make sure that happened from his point of view.
So
Which
did he
was
facilitate the meeting with Marcia and John with
no,
Megaforce, or how did that come about?
no. I'm the one who's always the guy that breaks the rules in the band when we're not supposed to say anything or tell anybody anything or keep something
Okay.
to ourselves. And I wrote demos a lot, and I played them for all my friends all the time before King's X even got a record deal. And so my friends, about 10 or 15 of us, all heard the songs, and I'd give them tapes, and they'd go all over the place, and there's probably people that have them all over the country at this point, one or two, something. But when Sam started working with us, it was secrecy. Don't let anybody know what you're doing, and, protection and stuff like that. And so he said, do not give your demo tapes to anybody else. Don't play them for anybody. Don't let anybody hear them. Promise. I go, okay. Well, my roommate decides to move to Nashville, Tennessee, and I'm thinking, I don't know anybody in Nashville. He says, Doug, make me a tape of all the songs. And I made him a tape of everything, about 30 songs, and gave it to him. He went to Nashville, started driving a truck for Amy Grant, and the drummer for Amy Grant, I knew him. And he asked my friend, Jim, he says, so what's Doug up to? And he says, here's his tape. So he plays the tape and gets back to me and says, hey, man, has anybody signed you guys or anything? I said, no, we've been dumped by every major label. And he says, well, I know one that might be interested. They're a metal label. I don't know if they'll like you guys. We should try them out. It's called Metal Blade Records. So I had to go to Sam.
Metal Blade or Megaforce?
Megaforce, Megaforce Records. So I went to Sam and said, sorry, I broke the rules, but I got us an in, you know. So Sam sent Marsha and Johnny a tape of us, and Sam Taylor so happens to be one of Marsha's. The name Sam Taylor has to was one of Marsha's best friends. She had a friend named Sam Taylor,
Okay.
and she saw the name of the tape, so she immediately opened it. Even though they had hundreds of metal tapes that they went through every day and threw them
Right.
all in the garbage.
Right. Right.
Okay, she pulled it out and put it on, and she liked it. And she went to Johnny, and you know they talked about it and called us and signed us. But yeah, that was my doing. And I
Way to
broke a
go,
rule.
Doug.
Well, we were in two lawsuits also, and I wasn't supposed to talk to the people that were suing us. And both times, in both incidences, we were in a having lunch, and I was specifically told not to talk to them legally, and I did anyway, and said, "Why are you suing us?" And they go, "Because blah blah blah." And I go, "That's not true." I said, "We don't have that kind of money. We could blah blah blah." And they go, "Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't know." And we go back upstairs and they would drop the case. It happened twice.
No kidding.
Yes.
You can't name who that was, I'm assuming, right?
Um, well, one person, I'm not gonna say his name, but the song Mr. Wilson is about him, but it's not his name.
Okay.
And the other person was actually Star Song Records. After we had stopped working with Morgan, they kept us on 100,000 or $1,000 a week salary for 6, 7, 8, 9 months,
Oh,
and
wow.
nothing happened. Yeah, they just gave money to us, and so Sam worked with them, and through us. And so we were starting to get a little recognition. We got a record deal, and we hadn't got the money in for the record deal.
Right.
And I guess we had borrowed some money from them or owed them some money or something. We were going to pay them back, I think. And we were promised to give them a certain amount of money at a certain time, and we didn't have it. And they didn't, and we couldn't give it to them. We didn't have it. But because of the friction between the head people, they decided to go into a lawsuit instead of working it out.
Yeah. So they
And
sued you for the money that they thought they
right,
were owed. Okay.
right. And when I sat down to one of the guys, I said, "Look, you know," I said, "we only get $100,000 to make this record, and that's what it's going to cost to make it." I says, we don't have the money to pay you back." I don't know what the deal was or anything, because I'm not managing the band or blah, blah, blah. But this is my side of the story. And they went and dropped it. And he looked
Wow.
at
Is this for Out of the Silent Planet?
yes.
You guys got
Yeah.
$100,000 to do that album?
Yeah. Everybody got $100,000 to do records back then.
Wow. Wow. Imagine that today. Imagine getting $100,000 to do that now.
And the thing is, $100,000 was nothing.
Oh, really?
When
well,
you got,
I mean,
when you got the $100,000, it's like, how much got $100,000? Yeah, they give that to everybody. If you got like 200 or 300 grand, then you're going, oh, the record companies, they believe in you. But if they gave you $100,000, you knew they were going to throw your record out there and see if it stuck. They weren't going to do a thing.
Right.
And and they'll just put it in the machine. And with all record companies, as far as I knew, if you could sell 200,000 records without any promotion, then they would take it and jam it because they knew they had something.
Okay.
We never could sell 200,000 records on any record in a certain period of time for them to justify pushing us harder. And Doug Morris at Atlantic Records at the time said we were one of his favorite bands and said we would stay on that label forever, whether we sell records or not. And then he left, and then we left. But
yeah, of course, right. Your team, when your team leaves, suddenly
right,
you get forgotten about. Let me ask,
right.
Do you know who Craig LaCicero is?
That name sounds familiar.
From Forbidden, the band, thrash band Forbidden.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so Craig was on with me about a couple weeks ago, and after Forbidden split up, he ended up going. Somehow Rick Rubin was looking to pull him into a project, and he had a band called Man Made God that they spent $800,000 on that album. I just can't imagine that, and it never really did what it was supposed to do. I can't imagine what big bands like, and you guys to me are a huge band, but when I understand when I say this, it's not a denigrating term, but I'm talking about somebody like Metallica or somebody like, you know, Rush or somebody like that that's
Well,
huge. The money must be obscene.
It is obscene. What I've never understood though is how can you spend that much money making a record? I mean, we spent 300,000 making Ear Candy. Yeah, they gave us a huge budget first time ever for that record. And I remember Jerry and I, and then Ty and engineer who we brought from Houston. We rented condos. We both had rented cars. And other than that, we drove to the studio every day and stayed there all day making a record, had catered food. And, you know, and we had Arnold Lanny produced it, so he probably got $100,000 for it.
I was going to say, he took a
You
big
know,
chunk right away.
yeah,
right?
but still, it's like, you know, you don't need that much money. The studio was like, you know, $100,000, you know, $100 a day or whatever it was, or what more, you know. Nowadays, you just don't have to pay that much. Nowadays,
well, you don't. You can record in your bedroom if you want to, really.
Right. And you know, I mean, we used to take a week just to get drum sounds, and then we'd go down to Guitar Center and rent 30 kicks and bring them back out there and set them all up, and then put mics in front of them and sit there and hit them and figure out which one sounded the best. It was that's where all the money went. It's just the meticulousness of it. But on the other hand, some of those records you could tell it too, that they sounded good.
So you get this deal with Megaforce, and you put out this killer album right here, which is my first. And I'll tell you how I heard this album. I was back in the day, you used to be able to go into CD stores where you could pick up the case off the rack, but it wouldn't have the CD in it. It would be like this, and you'd go up and you'd get the CD from the guy behind the counter, and he'd throw it in a little, you know, boombox for you to play. But I walked in and I'm hearing King is playing on the on the stereo, and I'm like, dude, what the hell is? And then I hear What Is This, and I hear these songs, and I'm like, who the hell is this band? And he's like, oh, this is King's X, a new band. You know, this is 1988. Like I said, I've been there from the beginning, Doug. And I gotta say, man, this is still one of my absolute favorite albums. It is so damn good. Every song on here just kicks my ass. And
it really was different than what it was different than anything else that I had heard of. I tell you,
hugely different, because we're talking about the end of the hair metal era at this point. We're talking pre-grunge, which you guys get you guys often get the proto-grunge Godfather tag.
Yeah, we get the snob or the Godfather, one or the other. There's never in between.
You know, the only thing I hear in King's X that's grungy, you can hear a little bit of Alice, where Alice may have stole some of their stuff and whatnot.
And that's about it.
Yeah, there's no grunge here. The only thing is the drop D thing. That's it. That's all.
Yeah, and Soundgarden did that too. And me and Chris knew each other, and we did we wrote a lot in the same realm sometimes, you know, especially when we both put out Super Unknown and Dogman. Me and him had conversations on the phone about songs.
Well, you had stuff, Brendan O'Brien was the producer of both those albums, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Well, Brendan,
I'm going to get there in a sec.
Okay,
I'm going to get there in a sec.
Yeah, let's go back.
Let me ask you about these two albums, though. I mean, they're 88 and 89. And you know, as a King's X fan, you know what I'm going to say next, right? I'm going to say, this is my shit. I love all your other music, and I have all your other albums, but this is my shit, because these are classic fucking albums, okay?
I can understand that.
What can you tell me about can you give me any anecdotes about each album and what? And you don't have to go into.
Well, I can say the first record. Ty wrote this song called Pleiades, and we were with Morgan Cryer at the time, flying to the Heritage Village to play on the Jim and Tammy Baker show live. Okay. Wow. Yeah, and Ty says, I just wrote this song. I don't know if it's any good or not. Give it a listen. And the plane hadn't left yet, so me and Jerry put our headphones in. We had stereo headphones and put it in our Walkman and listened to it, and we said, we love this. And I remember I got home the next day, I think it was, and drop D'd my guitar and wrote, "What is this? Power of Love." Geez, King. There was just everything I wrote on the first album was from hearing that song that Ty wrote.
Really?
And yeah, and then Ty had started dabbling in that himself. So that's where that stuff came from. Other than that, it just sounds like King's X drop detuned to me, and it made it sound heavier. But we still had all the harmonies, we still had all the cool, quirky parts and all the changes and stuff. But the drop D gave us another depth that in our band, and it set us apart at that moment when those came out, because hardly anybody was drop D tuned.
Right.
There was a couple bands that dabbled in it,
Well, you got Lindsey Buckingham did like the chain,
well, Killing
but it was
Joke.
more of a folk thing to do drop D.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Killing Joke, Nighttime
Killing
was in
Joke.
drop D. Yeah, and they had a couple drop D things, and I love Killing Joke. They're a big influence,
Dude, I am a massive Killing Joke fan. Huge.
Okay, the Nighttime record is the only record for me. The rest of them I like them, but that record just defined a part of my songwriting. That record did.
You know what my favorite Killing Joke record is, though?
What?
Brighter Than a Thousand Suns.
They did that in a pyramid.
I think that fucking album is
wow.
No, that was Millennium, I think.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah. The Brighter Than a Thousand Suns is the really poppy one, but it's real darky. Yeah. It is just a beautiful album.
Well, it's gotta be dark. There's Satan worshippers.
Jazz is a nutter, man. What a great guy.
Oh, those guys are into some dark stuff. So.
He's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you. So on this album, you did a video for King. Was that the only album you did a video for?
No, Shot of Love.
Power of Love. That's
Shot of Love. Shot of Love was on that. So it was that one, Shot of Love, and it was only two.
It was only two. No Goldilocks then.
No.
Yeah, I was going to say I can't find that.
We were told that if not to put Goldilocks out too early, because our career would move too fast and it would ruin the band.
Really?
That's what I was told. Our manager, Sam, said. I mentioned that to Sam, and he said that Johnny said that. Johnny Zazula. So again, I move on. Johnny, rest in peace. I love him. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't shoot. You might not be seeing us.
Right.
So Johnny Zazula and Marcia, they're both passed away, and I think about them a lot. They're great people. But yeah, that first record also, it was so different that I didn't get it either.
Did you do much touring on that album?
Oh, 9 months.
But I mean, like national touring, or was it?
Yeah, we played for nobody.
See, I don't remember seeing you out there. I only
the record company poured all kinds of money into us, and we got a tour bus, and we went out playing for nobody. Like all bands did at the time. We went out with Hurricane for a while. Then we went out with AC/DC.
Oh, Hurricane! I remember them.
Yeah, AC/DC and Blue Oyster Cult. We did a tour with them. So we did some shows on the first record.
And you opened for AC/DC on that first record?
No, sorry. First record, I think it was the second record we opened for AC/DC. I'm not sure.
Okay.
No, it was 90. So no, sorry. Well,
90 would have been Gretchen.
Yeah, I have to go to the biography.
Yeah, you gotta look up your own stuff.
I do. Some of the stuff I just don't remember. I remember it, but I don't remember the time period. Sometimes I get mixed up.
So how well did Out of the Silent Planet do as far as sales? Do you remember anything?
About 50,000.
That's it.
Yeah, nobody bought it. And,
I did. I definitely bought it.
Kerrang! Magazine gave it #1 and put us on the front cover. So
it's a fucking classic album, and it's only surpassed ever so slightly by Gretchen, and you probably knew I was going to say that. Talk about Gretchen a little bit. Can you tell me anything about that that's interesting?
I remember that Sam said, "Okay, we got to do another record, and we cannot have a sophomore slump." And he explained to us what that meant, And he said, so I want you to bring in every song you've ever written. I want to hear everything. We got to find the best of the best. So we all got together at my house, and I always had the biggest stereo, and everybody brought the cassettes, and we all played our songs, and we picked the songs. And so Gretchen for me is like half new songs and half old songs. So to me, that's the way I see it, because of where the songs came from. Out of the Silent Planet, everything was written like bam. It was all on the same level. There was hardly anything that was old at all. And so it had a different vibe to it. So Gretchen, to me, doesn't have a vibe. It has to me, it has a whole bunch of different songs that don't relate to each other in so many different ways. But that's just my take on it, because I'm a part of it, you know.
Yeah, you're so close to it.
Yeah, yeah. And the rest of the records after that, all of a sudden morphed into continuity again. You know, we were writing around, you know, like Faith, Hope, Love, and the fourth album. All the songs kind of sounded like we're honing in on our tone, you know, or sound or whatever it is. But Gretchen seems to me was all over the place.
I respectfully disagree, sir. I'm sorry. Let me ask you about,
I'm glad you are. I'm glad
let me ask you about a song on here. If you can speak to it, Mission. Talk a little bit about Mission and what that song meant to you and what you were going through with that.
Well, I remember Ty had to go to the doctor, and he was going to come to rehearsal late. So me and Jerry went to rehearsal early, and I said, let's write a song, Jerry. So I started playing the bass line to that song. I made it up, and Jerry played along with us. And we got like, I don't know how far into writing the song without a guitar, just making stuff up. And when Ty got in there, he came in and we said, look, we're working on this tune. Here's some parts that we came up with. And he threw his parts on it. And all of a sudden we finished the song musically. And I don't know, somebody said, because Jerry writes lyrics a lot, and a lot of just poetry that's like Dylan-ish, like way off, different from mine. I'm more to the point, and he's really out there. And I said, Jerry, you got any words for this? And the next day, he brought in all those words: a broken body, its joints at war, blah, 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 you know. And I read them, and I says, okay, a broken body. And then when we got to the chorus, I thought, what's the mission of the preacher man? And we went, wow, that worked. And we just kind of kept it going. That was probably one of the few songs we've ever written together like that. I mean, we very seldom.
You just answered a question I was going to ask you later, because I know you guys all write, and a lot of the thing, I wondered how much you all deconstruct each other's demos when you're in the studio.
Right. Well, that song was written that way, and makes me wonder on the first record was written together also. We got done with all the songs that were for the record that we were done, and Sam said, okay, we need one more song, just make one up right now. And we says, what are we gonna do? And I think Sam or Ty grabbed a guitar and tuned it to D, the whole guitar.
D standard.
No. A D for like slide.
Oh, like an open D tuning.
Open D. Gotcha, yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. And Sam said, write something with that. And Ty went ding, 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 ding. And I'm going, this is war. Boom.
This is hate.
Yeah. And it just kind of fell in. And then da 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 da. You know, and it just kind of fell into it, and we had a good time working on it. And
yeah, well, the reason I asked about the Mission, Doug, was that I know you guys come from Christian roots, but you've always kind of been.
Oh yeah, I can go there. Let me go there.
Yeah.
We were coming from Christian roots, and when Jerry wrote those lyrics, the only thing I could think of was, what's the mission of the preacher man? Some are true and some do lie. As someone who tries to stay in the middle and not cause a lot of problems. I could have said they all lie,
Yeah.
but then I knew that wasn't true, and I didn't want to hear the bullshit. And I knew they weren't all true, and I just wanted to make that clear. Some are true and some do lie, because people just seem to, at that point, in the Christian world especially, didn't seem to address the hypocrisy of Christianity. It
Yes.
was more, you need Jesus, you need to be saved, praise the Lord. And I'm going, no, wait a minute, I want to bring out some bullshit that's going on that's really torturing me,
Yeah.
you know. And so yeah, and that's what's in the middle. We started making a bunch of noise and stuff. I think Ty or somebody, no, I think I came up with, man, I wish to preach through that, or some kind of preacher or something. And Ty said, I got a preacher guy. And he pulled out this tape of this preacher preaching at a Marjo convention, or a Marjo church service.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Marjo was a complete fake evangelist, and he took people behind the scenes and showed how he preached Jesus, used all the tricks to get all their money and the whole deal. And he had people following him all over the world, believing in him. And he decides to do a show and show that he's just complete fake. So Ty took a copy of his sermon, and the preacher that was preaching before him, the warm-up guy,
Mm-hmm.
preached it, and he said, by God, I'm going to go down and buy me a Cadillac and going to get it all dusty and dirty for Jesus. And he says, oh, in the one line, he says, you know, the more I say it, the more I believe I was preaching the truth.
So that's that
Oh,
little
right.
sample you guys got.
The first line, that's what he says. And it's like, here's the preacher saying, the more I believe it, the more I believe I was preaching the truth.
Ah,
Just, you know, just the first line. And then at the end of it, he says he's going to go down and get that Cadillac dusty and dirty for Jesus. Bless
yeah.
God.
Yep.
Somebody say hallelujah. And then, who are these people? And so, I mean, we've always been the rebels in the church, you know, and all three of us, because we've just seen the dark side of it, you know.
Well,
And
can I ask you a question about where you
mm-hmm.
stand right now in your faith? I think I've seen you talk about it, and you've kind of talked about being somewhat of an agnostic. I'm like right on the borderline between agnostic and atheism, but I can't give up the tiny little sliver of
Mm-hmm.
hope.
I'm not an atheist. All I know is the creator of all things. If it is, then I believe in it. And other than that, I only know what I know, and I don't know what I don't know.
Very good.
And I've spent too much of my life listening to other people's beliefs and speculating on other people's beliefs, including my own, you know. And I've studied religions. I've been around the world. I've seen other cultures. I've been around people that have never heard of Jesus, and they're fine. You know, I read the Bible and go, this all makes sense if you put an alien in front of it instead. And then and read the book of Enoch, and then you go to the Elohim, and the Anunnaki, who supposedly genetically altered us, you know, and you could just barrel that all the way down. So for me, it's like, just believing in that religion and all that it entails is I can't. You know, I used to be angry when I got out of it, because I just felt like it sucked so much life out of me, because
Yeah.
I couldn't find the peace in it like I saw other people had. You know, I would go to church and people would raise their hands and they'd be crying and they'd be praying and they'd be feeling all this stuff. And I would sit there and go, I don't feel anything, God.
Yeah.
I
That's
don't
me,
feel
dude.
anything. I don't understand.
That's
What
me.
is it? You know, and I would pray and pray and fast and pray and beg for things and ask God for, and nothing ever happened, or if it did, I could scientifically or coincidentally explain it away. It was like there's just never any truth in it. Even the paranormal things that happened in my life, and I've had many paranormal things, and most of over half of my life, I woke up in the middle of the night screaming and yelling, and I was abducted when I was 3, and I remember half of it. So I know
Wait,
that.
wait, wait, wait. You were abducted?
Yeah. story.
I lost you there for a second.
And I'll tell you about that. Bring me back to that. But I've always been a person that feels energy in things. One time I was on a little hill when I was 10, and I just walked into this energy that felt like a panic attack, and I backed up and it went away, and I walked towards it and I felt it again and it backed up, and I ran down the hill and never went back. So see, when someone says, "Are you an atheist?" I'm going, no, I know there's something going on out there. There's a whole lot of stuff going on, and I experienced paranormal things, and I feel it, hear it, know things. It's crazy, but I cannot attach it to Jesus Christ died for my sins.
I see.
And so until I can do that, I just have to keep going where my God is taking me. And someone said one time to me, says, well, you're still going to have to stand before God. So what are you going to say? And I go, well, if your God is the true God and knows me and understands everything about me, he will say, come on in. I was right and you were wrong.
Right. I don't have to explain anything at that point, right?
Because I always tell them what I believe is not frivolous or wasting my time. I have painstakingly beat my head against the wall because I was afraid I was going to go to hell. And I had to make sure that I was making the right decision before I made that decision. You know what I'm saying?
Let me let's jump up to this one real quick.
Yeah.
And I'm not skipping Faith, Hope, Love and the self-titled for I just in time expediency. I wanted to about this one a little bit because
I can be quicker too.
We're cool. I'm looking at the time and we're at about an hour. Are you good? What's going on here? Are you there, Doug? What the heck is going on? You froze up, Doug. What the hell? Hey, Doug, are you there? Hey, Doug,
are you there? Yes.
Yeah, you froze up. I don't know if it was on my end or yours.
I don't know, but I rebooted anyway.
Okay, so we are at an hour, and I don't want to be a time.
Let's go.
Let's keep going. Okay, so this album here comes out, and I'm going to assume this is your highest selling album, correct? No,
probably.
You bring in Brendan O'Brien, who's a kind of the big name producer that era. And do you remember what your budget was for this?
I think it was $100,000, and he got $50,000 for it. I remember he took. No, I don't know if we got $100,000. I put it this way: I know he got $50,000 for doing it, and he told us that he got half. Okay. Because he wanted to do us. He went for $100,000 for everybody at that point. And he said he did that because he said he wanted his bucket list that year was to produce Aerosmith and King's X.
Wow.
He said he got to mix the Aerosmith record. He said, which was good enough. And and he got to do a King's X record. So yeah.
So this album, man, just kicks all kind of hellish ass. Okay. But talk about the production of this and going to the studio. Did you have all the songs written, or were you writing in the studio?
Yeah,
like what was the vibe?
All the songs were written.
Okay.
Both Ty and I both had written all those songs. We were on a roll at that point, I think. And grunge was happening, and there was Pantera, and there was like everybody was like just fucking throwing this shit out there and brutal, you know, and everybody's in each other's face with this great music, and they're all friends of mine too. And I'm thinking, man, dude, everybody's fucking, you know, we came out on the first record and we were like drop deep, so we were deeper than anybody, and we had that thing going. And I'm thinking, these guys are coming along and they're just fucking pushing the envelope.
Can I interject with one thing though?
Yeah.
You're talking about being heavy in your sound, but there's a real key ingredient to the King's X sound that we need to address. And it's not just you guys, your incredible harmonies and whatnot. It is your bass sound, my friend. That 12-string bass sound is the sound of King's X.
Well, thanks. Right? So to add to that, then when I wrote Shoes and Human Behavior and a couple of those songs, I took my bass and tuned him down to, I think it was C instead of E or
Right.
D. We were drop D at that time. And so, I went down to that and started writing songs lower than anybody else that I heard at that point. And I did that on purpose. And then when we got into the studio, I remember we were getting ready to work on the record, and I said to Ty, I went, man, let's take out the whole guitar and go half step lower. So everything's just one step lower, and that's,
So you're
if
in
you
C sharp on that album?
right.
Right.
And so if you listen to the demo, it's up in drop D, but the record is a little lower. And so we went in there, and I remember we got into the studio. Now, mind you, we had already made 4 records, and what was protocol is you went to the studio and you brought the drums in, and you spent a week getting drums. You did all the bullshit. And then a week later, you'd come in there and start working on guitars for a few days. And then and that would last for a week or two, everything until you got everybody's up and ready to go. And then at that point, you're ready to go home and you don't even want to make a record. Well, with Brendan O'Brien, we got there expecting all this was going to happen. We went in, set all the stuff up in about 20 minutes. And Brendan mic'd everything up, and so the 3 of us went to the place where you drank coffee and hung out and watched TV. And we're thinking, okay, I guess we'll be here for about a week. What do you want to do? About 15 minutes later, Brendan comes up and says, "You guys ready to start tracking?" And we go, "Yeah." And Ty looked at us and said, "Yeah, we'll see," because we didn't believe it. And we went down there and did Dogman. Walked into the studio, and it sounded like the record. And we looked at each other and went, well, it was like, wow. We just, it was the first time we ever heard ourselves like we wanted to hear ourselves.
Okay. And do you credit Brendan for that to a large extent, or what?
We credit Brendan to making us sound like we sounded live. Because when Brendan came to the studio and listened to us rehearse before we got into the studio, we went over the songs for him. He flew to Texas and we played the songs. And he said, "So what do you want out of this record?" And we says, "We want you to make us sound like us." And he goes, "I can do that."
Where did you record this at? What studio?
Southern Tracks.
Which is, where's that at?
I'm sorry, it was in Atlanta, Georgia.
Oh, okay. Because I was looking at it.
Because see, the first 4 records were done old school. You didn't put compression on stuff. You got the best tones that you could get were the mics in place, and then you mixed it, and you didn't hear the mix until everything was done and you couldn't change anything. And then the producer would go in there and mix it himself, and you'd come in and you'd have to deal with the mix, whatever it was. Right. And that's how I felt with the 4 Kings X records is, it was like that none of those 4 records sounded like I wanted them to sound. I wanted them to sound like Dogman, and I knew we could sound like that. But it was like I didn't have enough guts, say so, or balls or whatever, is to fight it out. I mean, we were I didn't know anything, and Sam was the producer, and we had an engineer.
I was going to say, Sam was your producer, so you couldn't fight him much, right?
Yeah, these people had made records, and I was just nobody. So there was nothing I could do about it. But I remember making the first record real quick. I can say this, making the first record, we're in the middle of it. And I remember I got this record called Masters of Reality.
Yeah, I remember those guys.
Okay, Rick Rubin produced that first record. If you put that record on and listen to the first song and how fat and thick and heavy that sounds. I brought that record in the studio and said, "Sam, listen to this. This is what we should sound like. This is it." He goes, no. And he just dismissed it and put with that record. If Rick Rubin and Brendan O'Brien, who was the engineer at that time, had produced us, I mean, we would have sounded as dry as the Black Crowes or Slayer. But I tell you what, it would have fucking killed. I bet it would have.
I still think they killed, but I get what you're saying. That there's a sound on Dogman that's very different from the other albums. And
it's us.
It's a fucking sledgehammer, man. It's a freight train coming at you,
It was, and the songs are angrier too.
Yeah,
And
for
we're
sure.
at I know I was at a point where I wanted to write some riffs that spoke something. Before it was I just made these drop D riffs up because drop D riffs are easy and you can
Sure.
do them. But after Filter did Hey Man Nice Shot, it's like, what else can you do with a drop D riff? I mean, he hit every note.
That's pretty much, yeah, that whole
I
chromatic
mean,
thing.
when
Yeah, yeah.
I heard that song, I'm going, you motherfucker, we've got nowhere to go now. There's no riff. You
That's a
you
great
just
fucking,
exhausted it. Oh,
great
I
fucking
love that
song, man.
song.
Great
I
song. You know
love
what
that
that's
song.
about too, right?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
That's
I
about
wish
the
I
guy.
wrote that song. I wish I came up with that riff, dude.
I
Come
bet,
on,
I bet. But let's be
I could
honest.
strangle
I think
Patrick.
Richard Patrick's a great dude, but they've never really. The second album's very, very good. I love the
Mm-hmm.
second album
Mm-hmm.
too, but they've never really quite. That's. Let me ask you about this real
Put it
quick.
this way, everybody has one record, I think, that is their record. And
Right,
almost every band that I know that I am an adamant fan of, they have that one record that I think is the record. And it's
right.
when the universe comes together and everybody's on the right page for a moment.
Yeah.
And then after that, the Cult Love album, they're
Oh
all on
my
the same
God!
page.
Fucking what an album, dude.
What do you do with that? And
King Crimson in the Court of the Crimson
oh
King.
yeah,
Where do you go from there?
oh yeah, Master of Puppets.
Master Puppets, right? I mean, but you guys, I really firmly believe you guys have 3 of those albums. I really do, and that's not to denigrate the other
I think
output.
we got 2.
I disagree, sir. I think you got
What's
3.
the
I think
third
it's
one?
say what?
What's the third one? Or should I ask? We'll just keep talking. We'll go for
No,
a little
no.
bit
Here it
longer.
is. Number 1,
Yes.
number 2,
Okay.
number 3.
Okay.
Those are
I would have.
these are bona fide fucking classic kick-ass
Okay.
albums, Doug. That's
Okay.
not to denigrate the rest. It's just these
Thanks.
stand out. And my question to you about that is, when you've got that record, how do you go into the studio after doing a Dogman and try to figure out where you go next?
You shit out about 4 or 5 more records, and then or 6, and then you get to XV and go, this is no fun. Nobody's into it. We kind of don't care. Why are we doing this? And I ain't gonna make another record until we got something that we feel is good enough to give to our people, because we're not gonna shit out another record.
Which is a great segue to the new album, but we're going to do that
Right,
last, if you don't mind, because
right,
I have a
sure.
couple other things I want to touch
Mm-hmm.
on with your career. Let's talk about KXM. I'm sporting my.
Oh, I gotta back up for one thing though.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
The records after Dogman, I still love them all. They're
I
my
love
children.
I love most of those albums. I'm not going to lie. I'm not a big fan of
Yeah.
Black Like Sunday.
Oh, who
I'm sorry.
is?
I'm
Who
sorry.
is?
I'm sorry. I
Here's
love Mr.
how
Bulbous. I
can
think
you? How can you? Here's the deal with Black Like Sunday. If I'm gonna do this for you too, I will
okay.
send you just the band tracks without vocals. It slams. It's bad fucking ass. What happened was, when we did that record, I thought, might as well just keep the old lyrics that I wrote back in the 80s, that when I wrote those songs. And I should have made up a new melody, and because I was older, I had something else to say. And I think those songs could have been some good songs if I had worked on the lyrics more. But to me, the lyrics were very juvenile and old, and it wasn't me anymore. And I feel like because of that, there was no heart in the lyrics and
Well, I'm
in the
not in any
performance.
way, shape, or am I going to say that Ear Candy, Tapehead, which fucking has some of your most slamming tunes on it. I mean, you
Uh,
open your shows with Groove Machine for a
mm-hmm.
reason, dude. That shit fucking rocks, man.
Now, Tape had the whole record except one song was written together. That was the first time we got together and said. I remember I was saying, "Man, I ain't writing no songs, y'all. Let's write a song together. I don't know what to write anymore." And Ty was all down for it. He always is. And so we went in there and pulled out all those songs. I remember we got all the music done. And Ty and Jerry looked at me and says, "Okay, we're leaving now. Go make up some lyrics." And they left the studio and said, "Call us when you got lyrics for all these songs."
That's killer.
I'll never forget that.
Mr. Bulbous follows that, and I kind of think Mr. Bulbous is one of those underrated albums in your catalog, because there's a lot of really unique songs in there that are very proggy in ways. Not not like King Crimson prog, but they're very progressive, right?
I can tell you a story behind that. We got together at Ty's house. He just built a studio in his house, and then the drum room was in his garage. So he said, let's make a record. And we went in and we set up in his living room a small amp and a small bass amp and a little teeny drum set for Jerry. We're just going to sit down and write some tunes. And I remember Ty said, this band's not going anywhere. We suck. Nobody gives a shit. So I don't even know why we're together. Why are we even making a fucking record? And I said, because we're here. Let's make a record. I'm always down to make a record. I don't care. And he said, well, what are we going to do? And I said, let's take our B guitars, drop B guitar, or our B guitars. I guess they're baritone guitars, and drop them down. So if they're tuned to B, we dropped them to A.
Really?
And and I said, now let's write some of the most fucked up songs that we could possibly think of, because who gives a shit anymore? And we wrote Julia.
Ah, what a song, man. That song is so damn good.
When we got done with Julia, we looked at each other and went, okay, we're on to something here. Let's keep
rolling, right? Let's keep rolling. Let me ask you.
Then we did Fishbowl Man.
That's Life in a Fishbowl.
And then we broke down the middle and just started doing this abstract stuff. And Jerry said, how long are we going to do this? I said, well, let's just make noise for a while. And Jerry, whenever you think it's been going on long enough, count us back in. And Jerry goes, well, that don't sound obvious. And Ted goes, we'll just erase the clicks, and so all of a sudden we just kick back in. And then when we got done with it, we said, so what are we going to do with this middle thing? And I said, why don't we do a talking thing? And I said, Jerry, why don't you just write some poetry and talk it through? And we all laughed, said, yeah, we never did that before. This is stupid. Let's do it. And that's
it's a super proggy, trippy, psychedelic album that I think is super underrated. And let me ask you this. You've said this a couple times in this interview so far, and I'm really curious to pick your brain on this. You've said, and I'm paraphrasing, nobody gives a shit. Why are we doing this band anymore? Fuck it. Have you felt that way a lot during your career with King's X?
I felt that way my whole life.
Oh man, you gotta know.
And here's the way it is. Here's the way it is. And I hope people understand this correctly. The way I'm saying this, from the day I remember singing, I watched people cry. Okay, from the day I've made music and done art, I draw pictures, I've watched people go, oh my God. But it's only been a small amount of people.
Okay.
And it's not that I wanted more people. It's just that it's always been a small amount of people, and the other people they're indifferent.
They're indifferent. Yeah,
they don't care. They don't hate it.
Right.
It doesn't matter.
I get what you're saying.
From the time at 3 years old when my mother left and my grandmother said my mama didn't want to be bothered with me, I've had a complex of not feeling I fit in.
Okay.
And probably I emulate it in what I do, the music that I write, everything I do is a little off base. It's just who I am. And in this band, the same thing is we've been going, for 9 years or 8 years, maybe, we played in Springfield, Missouri in clubs, and all the bands in town and the musicians would come around and lose their mind on us.
Yep.
But we couldn't get a big enough crowd to stay there and dance and buy drinks. Nobody cared but those people. To this day, we've had that core of people that love us and they get it. And then the masses, they don't. And
I get you what you're saying.
When I say that, it's more of a joke. When I say that they don't care, I say it jokingly because it doesn't matter anymore. we get it now. We
Yeah.
get why we're special. We get what we're doing. I might not be able to get outside of it and like it, but I get that we're doing something that's very special and only a few people really love. And because of that, I feel special and I feel blessed and I feel thankful. And at 72 years old, I look at my whole life and go, I got to do whatever the fuck I wanted to basically my whole life and got
Right.
paid for it and was loved for it. And it might
Exactly.
not be billions of people. It doesn't have to be, because it never was about the people. The only reason I think in my life I was sort of had a hard time with not being huge is because all my friends who
Yes.
said to me, we can't wait to open for you, Alice in Chains, or hanging out with the Pro Jam guys, or
Pantera.
Stone
Yeah, all
Temple
those.
Pilots, all those bands. When I met them, they were looking up to us, going,
Yes.
they were being inspired by us. And
Yep.
then I watched them, just Pantera, all of them just went shoom, huge arenas, the whole deal, and to the point where politically we can't even open for them. When the management get together, we can't open because on paper we don't draw enough people to merit opening for these huge bands, because they have a payroll too. It's all political. So at the end of the day, I just go, man, that sucks.
Yeah.
And then
I
on
didn't.
the other, but then I go, but if we had become as big as those bands, I would have had scandals, had cases of unbelievable, just horrible things happen to me. I
Lots
was
of lawsuits.
I was pretty naive. I was pretty free with money. I'm still am. I have relatives, the money, lots of money. The stories that some of my friends tell me that have a lot of money, I go, oh, I'm glad I didn't. And sometimes I go, maybe I'm blessed, and I'm still here and it didn't kill me.
Doug, there's a core group of people, and I get exactly what you're saying because you saw some of your peers. I know Charlie Benante is a huge fanatic,
Yeah, I
great friend
love
of yours.
Charlie. I love him.
Charlie's like the biggest, the coolest fucking dude.
Yeah, he is. He is.
And I get it. They've played these big stages. They've played
Yeah.
these, but you know what, dude? Doug, you got to play fucking Woodstock 94 in front of hundreds of thousands of people, man. Not a lot of bands ever get to say they got to do that stuff.
I know. It was a highlight, probably one of the highlights of my life. Hey, this is the
Talk
story.
about that.
Let me
Talk
tell
about
you
that.
about this. So this is the story of my life, and this carries into my history and in the history of the band when it comes to indifference and that whole thing. We played Woodstock, right? First
Mm-hmm.
time Woodstock happened in '69. I was 19. I missed it, but it was a big deal to me, and that's when it all happened. Okay, Woodstock '94. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God! We're gonna play it. We're gonna play on a Friday night when the sun goes down. What every band wants, that who's up
Yeah.
and coming, the perfect spot, and we got it. And we're playing Woodstock in front of all these people, and we don't sell a lot of records, but we're on MTV, and people think we do. So I'm going, yes, yes, yes. This is a commercial. This is every band that plays in front of that many people always goes on to
Right.
sell records. So I'm high as a kite in my mind, probably for the first time in the career of this band. I was so expectant. We went out there and we did what we did.
Slamming.
I felt we sucked, but I always hate what I do. But we did what we did, and it was an overwhelming, wonderful experience. Okay, after it was done, I remember I walked off stage and I thought, oh my God, I've ruined our career. I sucked. I wasn't any good. And then we were immediately whisked to the radio station, and they were playing Black Flag that they had recorded from Woodstock after we had got done
Wow.
playing. So I'm hearing this song slamming. I
Yeah.
mean,
Hell yeah, dude.
slamming. And
Hell yes.
I go, is that us? And they said, yeah, that's you guys tonight. I'm going, what? Okay, because I didn't think we sounded that good.
Doug, you
So
guys
anyway,
kick
okay,
fucking ass.
to make the story short, after we got done playing, we drove off, and in the next week, we sold 200 copies of Dogman in the upstate New York area, and the record tanked, and Atlantic said, we're going to put you in the studio again. It's not selling. Now, again, See what I'm saying? All
I
through
see it.
my life,
Yes.
it always happens. It's like, no, the masses don't like you.
So
So stop trying to make them like you and stop worrying about it. And
yeah,
that's why we started to just go, who cares anymore, and start doing what we wanted to. But what I love about the new album, Three Sides of One, is we wrote this song, we made this song for our fans. We didn't make it to sell a lot of records. We didn't make it to go number one. We didn't make it to prove we're still here, or we want to try again to see if we can do this. We did it for the people that love us because we feel like they deserve it and only they deserve it. If everybody else likes it, I'm happy, but they do. But we made this record for our fans. We tried to put everything in it that we felt that they encouraged us and loved us and brought out of us, you know.
Well, my copy just got here. I'm going to go grab it when I
get
answer
it.
your question. I'm going to get it. But
Okay.
Let me ask you this real quick, and because I do want to really quickly talk about some of the projects that you do. What with KXM? How'd that all come about? I know you're in LA, right? You've been in LA how long?
Ray Luzier got us together. Ray was having a party, and George Lynch was invited to it, and I had never met George, and it was Ray's son's first birthday party, and so Ray just invited a few rock stars over, and I had moved to LA maybe that year, I think it was, and so I went over there, and George comes in, and George tells me he's a King's X fan. He even said later on that Gretchen, him and Ali, his singer, and Lynch Mob did acid out in Joshua Tree and listened to Gretchen Goes to Nebraska, and he said it changed his life. But so we
I can
talked
see
about
that.
And Ray says, well, you know, I got a drum room here. We should make a record. And George says, yeah. And I go, yeah, let's do something. About a month later, George calls both of us up and says, hey, I got a studio. It's already rented. Let's go. Got a producer. I got everything. And so we went, what? George is a go-getter. Okay, we didn't know that. Yeah, he's a go-getter. And next thing I knew, we put a record out in 2 weeks. And that was the first one.
The premise with KXM is you guys get in the studio and you write those songs and record those songs right there.
Immediately. Yeah. Nobody tells anybody what to do. That is the agreement. Nobody suggests anything. We just, you know, well, I mean, there's things we'll suggest, like, let's do that part 4 times instead of 2 or 3 instead of 4. But we don't tell anybody what to play. It's so cool that somebody will come up with something. Either George will come up with a riff, or I will, or Ray will be tinkering around his drums, and I'll just keep playing that for a while, and I'll find something in it, you know. And it's fun. And then after everything's done, the songs are done. Ray will, like, in his head, construct it. He's a great songwriter when it comes to arranging parts. And he would piece it together in his head and say, okay, guys, I'm going to play it the way I hear it. And they'll give him a click, and we walk away, and he plays the part. And then we'll sit down and go, he'll say, can you make a chorus and verse up in that? And I go, yeah, I can do it. And so we leave it. And that's how we pretty much make the records. And it's so much fun. And I like that. I like the band a lot because of that. It's like, I can't hate anything but myself in that band because I didn't write any of the songs. And
this album in particular,
Scatterbrain.
Man, I fucking love this album. The song Scatterbrain is a ball crusher. Voices in the Sky, what a killer track. I have to admit, I did not get the 3rd album. I missed that. Somehow I missed that. But
you haven't got it. You just didn't like it.
No, I didn't get it.
Oh,
yeah. I missed it. I don't know how I missed it.
I got to get it for you. Let me know.
No, we're good. But
okay.
Let me ask you this: where's that project at? Are we going to see a 4th album?
Yeah.
And I know there was a lot of talk about trying to get that out on the road, and I know Ray's schedule is very difficult.
Well,
do you ever see that happening?
Right. Everybody's schedule is crazy right now, but we have talked about making a new record. We even talked to Joe at Rat Pack, just trying to figure out time and when to do it. And George's got so many projects out now. It's kind of, record company don't want to do anything because he's got to get his other stuff out real quick. And so it's kind of tied up, but we want to do it. if we don't make a record soon, what we actually want to do. And Ray said to me, he said, Dougie, they call me Dougie, said, pick up a bunch of songs that you want to do for the KXM record, because, you know, a lot of the songs I can't sing them live. They're just way too high, or just, you know, I didn't write those songs to sing them live, but there's stuff that I know I can do live. So he said, make up a set. And, you know, a 90-minute set with a drum solo and a guitar solo, I think we got it. You know, we can do some pretty cool stuff. So
for sure.
And so we want to do maybe 1 or 2 shows like that and video, you know, and put it out.
Like a live DVD thing or something.
Right.
Okay.
You know, that might be cool.
Oh, that'd be killer.
So Ray's got that, and he wants to do that. And Grinder Blues, I just talked to J-Bo and Scott, and so we're going to get together sooner to work on, or at least talk about making a new Grinder Blues record.
Yeah, you got 2 albums out, and the last one was 2021, right?
Right. And Joe at Rat Pack said, Dougie, it's time for a new solo record. And I'm going, I got the songs. I got about 30 songs still. And
really?
King's X has like 8 songs that I wrote that didn't get on
3 sides.
3 sides of one. And by the time we do another record, I hopefully will write a whole bunch of a slew of more songs. I got some ideas. And
yeah, you're a highly prolific writer, man. There's no doubt about that, right? How about PGP? How'd that all come together, man? Eric Gales, what a fucking slam guitar player.
Eric, when he was 16, his solo band, his brother and Eric Crawford, they toured with us for a while, and we
so you knew him from there.
Yeah, he calls me his big brother, and so Mike Varney called me up one day and says, "Hey, I got Thomas Pridgen and Eric committed to do a record. You want to play bass, and you and Eric can do the vocals?" And I go, "Sure. How much?" Because I was pretty broke. So he gave me X amount of money, and I go, "Sure." And he says, "We got to do it all in 15 days." I'm going,
"Wow,
okay." I was up for it. I just, you know, I'm an idiot. I'll go for it. Ooh, I don't think I'll ever do it again.
This album.
And the second album, that one that one was same way. 15 days. I wrote lyrics in 2 days for everything I wrote. Tracked all the vocals in 2 days. And it was mixed. The whole record was mixed in a day and a half. Both records.
No kidding.
Where was that
done? Where was that done?
It was up in San Francisco somewhere where the Grateful Dead make all their records. This place called The Farm. You walk into the place and there's chickens and nothing but a bunch of barns and there's like boards and shit holding walls up because the buildings look like they're gonna fall over, and there's weeds growing everywhere and snakes, and it's just a real shit. Yep.
Prairie Sun.
And when you go into the studio, there's states of the art, and there's 3 of them.
No kidding.
Yeah, and it's up where Grateful Dead and Janis Joplin, all those people used to make records. It's like an old hippie commune place that they turned into a studio.
Cool. Yeah, this album has some slamming tracks on. Wishing Well on here. I think it's one of your songs.
Yeah.
That thing fucking smokes, dude. Holy shit.
I always kind of like that song. I wish King's X had got a hold of that song.
I
just write so much. Sometimes I do that. I go, wish King's X was doing that one.
Let me see. Let's see. Solo albums. Talk about, you've done 5 solo albums, I believe.
Something like that. 2 Poundhound.
2 Poundhound.
2 on Magna Carta and 2 on.
Oh, there's 6 then.
2 on Rat Pack, and then the one I put on my own, Naked.
Yeah, Naked. Okay, Naked's the one. Yeah.
And then there's Joy Bomb. So how many is that?
Joy Bomb's the new one. I thought I counted 5. Without the Hendrix thing.
Without the Hendrix, it's 2. Well, I call the 2 Poundhound records solo records because it was all me. But so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Oh shit. Okay. Then I rate your music is not correct then. I don't own all those, but talk about Joy Bomb. So did you do everything on that?
Except the drums and the guitar leads. I did the leads on 2 songs, but I had other people come in and do leads. But other than that, I played everything. And I pretty much write everything on my superior drummer. And then usually I get a drummer to kind of play what was there, and stick to the parts anyway, and let them put their own life into it. And Matt Kajorvestad did the drums, and he did a fucking amazing job.
Well, so I'm assuming you have a full Pro Tools rig at home there,
Yeah.
or
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Do you have an isolation thing, or how do you do vocals?
No, I do it the shitty way. I just put the mic in front of me and just use the room and go for it.
Just roar.
Yeah. It it could be better, but it's what it is.
So we talked about the Grinder Blues band.
Grinder Blues. I love Grinder Blues. When I got together with Grinder Blues, I met Scott, who plays drums, at a Ray Luzier party too, and we talked about making music and stuff, and we got together with his brother, and that's how Grinder Blues started. And I suggested, let's do a ZZ Top kind of vibe, but take our guitars and tune them down to D. And J-Bo said, yeah. And so we do blues in drop B.
Drop B.
B as in boy.
Oh, boy. B.
B, yeah.
Really? I've got to admit, I've not heard the Grinder Blues stuff.
Put this stuff on. It's like
I need to get that. I need to get that.
It's like if Muddy Waters tuned down.
Holy shit! I mean, that's low. Now, let me ask you: with your voice, is that the more natural place to go now?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. But Grinder Blues is probably the only band that I'm in that I can get up and sing those songs anywhere, anytime, without being hoarse or anything. All those songs are in my speaking range, and I did that on purpose, not tuned down, but in my older age, I'm trying to sing in a speaking range so I don't lose my voice, because I just can't yell like I used to. It just ain't happening. Sucks.
Well, come on, man. I mean, you're only 72, Doug. Come on.
Yeah,
man.
only.
I want to talk about the album real quick. I'm going to go run out and grab it. Do you mind if I do that?
Yes, go ahead. Mm-hmm.
I'll be right back in 1 second. It's at my door. I'll be right back.
You are listening live. And here we are. Oh, I gotta go use the bathroom. Hurry.
Okay. So you are going to get to see a live unboxing right here of the new King's X album. And of course, let me grab something to cut this with here.
Use your teeth.
What's that?
I just use my teeth and just go.
Yeah, I'm looking for my keys, actually.
Okay.
I think I got it here. I appreciate you bearing with me on this. And I have to thank one of my very good friends who is in the chat. His name is Rick Contreras, and he has
hi guys,
a YouTube channel called The Dreadful Minutes, and we do a lot of collaborations and stuff. But
The Dreadful Minute.
All right, we're almost there, Doug. There we go. There it is. Ta-da.
Yep. I even got pics made look like that now.
And I got to tell you, man, this album gets better with every listen. It was already very good on the first couple of listens. Let's talk about a couple tracks on here.
Sure.
Let's talk about Let It Rain. Man,
yeah.
You hear that chiming, droning guitar chord thing and that
Hell's Bells.
That chromatic thing, that down, 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 down. And man, talk about that track.
I remember I wrote that song, and it was just fun. It was simple, and it just pounded. And word-wise, it's just there was a moment in my life where I was asphyxiated with water I was watching a lot of the Anunnaki docu- documentaries, and they talk about the flood on the earth and stuff that was happening before and after, and rain and stuff. And I was thinking about the state of the world and watching, you know, back to back CNN and Fox News, just going, "Are you fucking kidding me?"
Yeah.
And I thought, you know, I don't know how we're going to settle this. I'm a problem solver my whole life. When something's off, I always want to find a balance, and I want to bring people together and help them see the sides that they agree on, so that they can get along. And that's why I look at the world. There's a harmony and a balance, and I write songs with that in the way I think, and that balance. And Let It Rain, I got to a place where, you know, I don't know if anybody can fix this. And then I thought, you know, I'm not really a believer, but, you know, calling all saviors, you know, somebody, you know, people believe in a God, or somebody's going to come and fix us and save us. And people are looking for help. And I'm going, so, you know, calling all saviors and shouting out at God. The lyrics are actually calling all saviors, and I'm shouting at the gods. In the studio, I said, I'm shouting at God. And I didn't notice I had said it, but I left it until the record was done. And I saw, oh, and then I go, well, it's what it is. And because my point was, I wasn't trying to say I'm behind a religion. I'm just screaming out at the universe, somebody come and save us. You know, I'm willing to compromise.
Right.
And so Let It Rain. And it was to wash away the fear, because fear is what drives sides
All
to
of us.
fight. All of us. It's all about being afraid.
Yep.
And the thing is understanding fear. Why are people afraid? If you live in your house all your life and you go outside once in a while and go for a walk, and you go to the store and you never leave your neighborhood, and you've lived it for 50 years of your life, and you only watch one thing on TV, and the world looks like it's cruel to you, then you're going to be scared of it. So you're going to be afraid of me when you see me. You know, it's that easy, that simple.
It is.
You know, and so that's my point. You know, it's like, let it rain, wash away the fear. Just, it's easy. Just wash it away. Water washes things clean. You know, and yeah, and I put my 12 string on it because I felt like, man, I'm gonna use my 12 string on this song. It's gonna be cool. And it reminded me of Led Zeppelin a little bit. And I'm going, well, you know, people are gonna say there's this Zeppelin thing, and I'm gonna have to go, yeah, there is. You know, I grew up on Led Zeppelin, and I borrow from them, so it's like it's gonna be there. Um, and
I hear it. I don't necessarily hear. I still hear you guys, and that's the important
Yeah,
thing about
good. Well, it's
these.
immigrant song, you know, because
Yeah.
I love the or
Two chords. Two
right,
chords.
my Sharona, or You Spin Me Around. I love riffs that do octaves. And so that's where that came from. So Let It Rain, that marching across a hill, it's kind of a way I write. It's like you're marching to war. I have a
Right.
bad habit of doing that big country kind of vibe.
Oh,
You
what a
know,
great! Oh, what a
oh,
great band! What a great band!
every drum beat I come up with is from, it's kind of from big country. You know, when I first heard that drum beat, that was my drum beat. I'm
You talking about this? You talking
big
about the
country.
song "In a Big Country"?
Yeah. Think
Oh, what
about
a
King.
song!
Think about King's X. Everything is listen to the first record. Everything is big country.
Oh man,
Yeah.
hey, I got a question for you
Yeah.
from the chat. Marty, my buddy Marty from Heavy Metallurgy is asking,
Hey,
Doug,
Marty.
is the Grinder Blues Band the band that the Billman brothers? You did a recording in Traverse City, Michigan.
Yeah.
He lives in Traverse City, and he's
Awesome.
tracking. His death metal band is called the Glorious Den, and they're tracking finishing. I think they're mixing their album right now at that same studio. How about that?
Awesome. That's cool.
Yeah, he said, I'm sitting here right now. My band records and rehearses at that studio. Fucking cool as hell, right?
Yeah.
The Flood, the song The Flood, very, very different sounding King's X song, but very King's X, if that makes any sense, right?
It makes sense.
Um, I I think I've heard you talk about this track a little bit. It's uniquely un-King's X, but still very King's X. Talk about that track.
Um, for the last few years, I would say since Meshuggah put out Omni or Ami or Omai or I don't know how you pronounce it. It
Oh,
starts.
yeah. What? Oh shit. Obzen. You mean?
Yeah.
Obzen. Yeah.
When that record came out, the math was unfathomable, but the groove with the math was home for me.
Mm-hmm.
And all my life, I like syncopation. And all my life, I've made up these fucked up syncopated grooves in my head that I never could teach to anybody because I could never mathematically explain them. And when I heard Meshuggah, they made sense of what the concept that was in my head. And all of a sudden I fell in love with them. And so that groove math pushed me to continue my groove math because King's X's math groove too.
Sure.
And before I've heard of them, but we all come from that. Let's push the beat, and nothing's on the one anymore.
Right.
And then I got to meet them also a few years ago, and a couple of them
Thomas,
told
very
me,
cool guy. Thomas,
right? Well,
great guy.
they told me that Faith of Love was one of their favorite albums by us.
That's so cool.
And Dick said that they got drunk and played King's X all the way to the next city until they passed out, which was so cool after meeting them. So, I mean, we were both fans of each other, and it was just a wonderful time to hang out. But anyway, so I've been in that Meshuggah mode, and there's a band called Vola and a band called Sleep Token that they do some cool math, and then Periphery, which, oh my God, I love Periphery. And so I was in that mindset of pushing that envelope of some crazy ass groove math. And so I wrote a couple songs like that. And the flood.
Weird thing about that.
Let me finish.
Yeah,
the flood. Sorry. So when I wrote Flood, the drum part was like a Meshuggah drum part. Everything was with the kick drum. Bump, 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 bump. I mean, it was as hard as it could be.
Slamming.
And when we went into the studio to do it, Jerry, it wasn't him. That's not what he does. And shame on me for wanting him to do that. But it wasn't comfortable. And we says, dude, do what you would do. And when he did it, we all just went, fuck, that's it. And it all made sense because it bridged the two. And we just needed Jerry's plowing through it to make it King's X, which is what we call it. That's what we say, is plow through it, man. And when he lays into it, it's like, that's King's X. So
Jerry is such an underrated drummer that nobody talks about except musicians. And that goes back to your original point that you guys, every fucking musician you ever talk to, which I am one, you can see my ovation, my original 89 ovation back there. Every musician loves this band. I mean, it just is a fact. It is what it is. You guys have a magic stew, but what's crazy about the Flood track is that you come in with these slamming fucking riffs that almost sound like you said, Meshuggah or something like almost like off a death metal album.
Right.
And yet, then you pump in those gorgeous harmonies that only the three of you guys can do, and it sounds like a fucking Beach Boys song in a weird way.
It did. Well, this reason it's called Part 1 is because it had it had 6 parts, and I took 2 parts out, I think, or maybe 3. I can't remember now. I have to go back and listen to it. But I wrote another song around it and called it Flood Part 2. And they don't even sound like the same parts, because the parts, it was almost like a early Queen song. The parts were big fat Black Sabbath riffs with triple harmonies and this really cascading vocal that's just a verse in it, and oh, and then another part that kind of reminds you of like what's the song by Ozzy, Bark at the Moon. It
Really?
was, yeah, there was a part, and then another part that's just like a big Black Sabbath riff, and
So
then
where's
with
that
the
at?
rest of it. Okay,
Where's
that's
that track
part
at?
2. It'll be out sooner or later.
Okay.
It's part 2. It's done too, but I decided to put this. I didn't want to write a magnum opus. I don't know why. It was just an executive decision in my head of all this things that go on, and so I pulled these parts out and put the breakdown part in it, and that part literally is, remember God, our house in the middle of
In the middle of the street. Yeah.
yes, Madhouse.
Madhouse. Yeah.
Madhouse vocals were so cool to me that I had to do it. Maybe the time has come, they say. I mean, it's total Madhouse.
Oh,
You know,
that is so good though, dude. It's so
yeah,
good.
and even the chords. And then I went violins. I had to put violins in there.
Madness. It's madness, not madhouse.
Madness, yes,
Yeah.
madness. And you know, I had to put the violins in there and just fuck it up completely.
Oh, it's so cool. How about, I want to talk about 2 other tracks, and then I got 3 or 4 quick hitters, and I'll get you out of here.
Okay.
And I can't thank you enough.
You're welcome.
For the amount of time you've given me today.
Is everybody still on here? Everybody bored with this yet?
No, man.
There?
We got 10 people watching, and we've had more than that, but it's a weird time of the day. Everybody's getting off work and shit over here on the East Coast. So
they're bored.
I want to talk about Nothing But the Truth, man. And I am not saying this hyperbolically, dude. That might be one of the best vocals I've ever heard come out of you. It is so soulful, so real, so you can reach out and touch that vocal. It's that good. And Ty does something he rarely does. He does a blues solo on that, because he's not a blues soloist. But on that song, he goes crazy for about 2 minutes. Talk about that song. I love it.
Well, Ty is a blues player, really.
I mean, hear a lot of blues in him. I hear a lot of progressive blues.
Well, yeah. Not the old time blues, more like the Stevie Ray Vaughan, the Texas, Mississippi, the lead players that, you know,
but there's some Eric Johnson in his playing, there's Jimmy Page in his playing, a lot of throwback to the 70s, right?
But Ty's favorite guitar player, one of it is Ace Frehley. And then Brian,
all of our favorite players,
and then Brian May, you know, those 2 guys, and Phil Kagi. But what we saying now? Oh, Nothing But the Truth.
Nothing But the Truth.
Yeah, you know, the song didn't have an end like that to it. When I wrote the song, I didn't put a lead in it, and when I played it for the guys, when we learned it, we got to the end of it, and I thought, hey, let's just jam it out, Ty. You just do a long lead on it, like the way we used to do it. And he goes, I can do that. And so we just jammed it out until it felt good, and then we ended it, you know. At that point, it turned into a really cool song for me. When I listen to it, I go, oh, it's okay. But then it kicks into the rest of it, and all of a sudden it turns into like a whole nother picture, you know.
Well, it's a King's X ballad in a lot of ways, but is it a ballad specific to any specific person or situation in your life?
Oh yeah,
or all of them?
No, it's a true story for me.
Okay,
it was just somebody that I was in love with, or thought I was in love with, and they just could not commit in the way that I needed to hear it. You know, it was
that vocal line, "It's all about you, not me." I can't do it like you, but
what I see,
it's just such a beautiful lyric to it. It's so.
Actions speak louder than words, you know, and people will tell you how they feel by the way they act.
Exactly.
And that's pretty much the rude awakening for me of that song, you know.
Okay.
I call it my Purple Rain.
Dude, it's a fucking beautiful track. I want you to know that. That's one that gets me right here. And we're going to talk about one track. We're going to go all the way back to the beginning album in a second
All
here.
right.
But first, I got to talk about my favorite track on the album. That it's the one we just talked about and this track. They're my two favorite songs. And it is All God's Children. And
Yeah.
what I think that All God's Children is? This is, and that's a Ty song, I'm assuming, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is Ty's follow-up to the greatest King's X song of ever, and that is Pleiades. I just have to say, Pleiades just blows my fucking mind. Every time I listen to that song, I fall into it and I can't get out of it.
Awesome.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And this song is very, very, very close to that. It's like, for me, it's a modern 2020s version of Pleiades. Talk to me about this song, because I
Awesome.
know this one you feel pretty strongly about as well.
I love that song. It's just fun to play. It's just fun to play, and it's like the heavy part is, if it's going to be heavy, let's go Geezer Butler, and when we break into the
Mm-hmm.
I pull in my Black Sabbath. Remember on what is this? It stands before me.
What is this?
Yeah,
Oh,
no,
right. You took from Black
Black
Sabbath. Right.
Sabbath. Yeah.
Yeah. What
And
is
it, it,
this?
it's
Yeah,
yeah.
it's so good,
I'm
man.
just playing some Geezer Butler riffs, because the guitar, the riff that Ty made up was just so fucking fat that I wanted to play like Geezer would to make it really sound as Black Sabbath as I could, And for me, I love this song, but I just love how it's produced too. The front of it, all the way up to the end where I do my little bass solo, and they let me do it. Nobody said no, Doug, that ain't working.
Was Michael Wagner the producer, right?
No, that was
Oh, no.
Michael Parnan.
Okay, can you talk a little bit about him and what he brought to the table?
Oh yeah. Well, one thing I got to say about
All
God's Children is lyrically and vocally, I think, man, it's just some good stuff that Ty came up
lyrically,
with.
it's
in the words, geez, yeah.
fucking incredible, dude.
And I love the dichotomy or the twist of it. We love to sing about spiritual things without going there.
Without being holy rollers.
Right. And all God's children, it's as vague as it can be. I've heard some people were offended thinking that Ty was blaming all Christians on something, but that's just, some people are offended so quickly, but it's all God's children kept believing. It's just the people that believe in a God that kept them believing, and they walked into the night with torches, and there was a group of people that did that. And it might not be evangelicals, but there is a group of people that say they were God's children that went into the night with torches and they believed things, and it's just a true story. That's what I love about it,
I will say too, just as an aside, because I know you can't really speak to Ty and Jerry's tracks specifically as to what because they wrote them, but the track Take the Time by Jerry. What a gorgeous song. Jerry is always he's the guy that kind of ties stuff together with these beautiful little plaintive psychedelic ballads. And Jerry, I assume, I know you've spoken about the fact that you're not the biggest Beatles fan, but I gotta believe Jerry really loves the Beatles. Just that song has such a Beach Boys, Beatles, 60s vibe to it, right?
That's all Jerry writes, and that's what's so great about his songs. They're so melodic and they're so poppy. He just never brought songs in. He always felt like we weren't interested. And how could he when I bring in 20 songs and Ty brings in 10? And he brings in one, and we go, we don't like that one. We like, that's our fault. We should have been more open. But on this record, he brought 5 songs in, I think, and
he got
3. He got 3.
That's right. Yeah, 3. Right.
And no, however many he brought in, we put them
Holidays,
all on.
Take the Time, and what's the other one? Is it or She Called
Right.
Home.
She Called Home. Yeah,
Yeah.
Jerry brought those three in, and we did
Yeah.
all three. We thought they were amazing songs, and we thought that together we could, make them really special. Even to the point of Michael, we talked about this, all of us, but mix every song like it's a single. Don't mix it like it's a record. Don't make it consistent. And so if you listen to the three songs at least take the time. It sounds like it'd be on top 40 radio.
It really does. It's a gorgeous song.
Right. It has nothing in there to offend you, and no distorted guitars. I mean, I was always thinking, now this could really do that. I go, it ain't gonna happen, but that would be cool. But so this record has a little bit of everything for everything.
Yes, it does. And it's a grower. I'm going to tell you, when I first listened to this, I got up through All God's Children, and I'm like, okay, man, that's slamming. That shit is just absolutely fucking ripping. And then I kind of was like, okay, I like a lot of these songs, but I listened to it again today, and I'm like, what was I thinking? Because all these tracks are really fucking good.
I understand that.
I think it's one of those things. It's a grower a little bit after the first four tracks, but you got tracks on here like "Give It Up," which has got a poppy but slamming sort of upbeat King's X vibe, like maybe like something like Everybody Knows a Little Bit of Something, like in that vibe. You got "Swipe Up," which is kind of your heavy Meshuggah type track.
That was the other one,
right? But that's a great track. But yeah, so I think. If anybody out there watching, man, this is 14 years in the making. And I did want to ask you one little question about this and how the production of it, because what I understood was this was initially supposed to come out on Golden Robot. What can I ask? What happened there?
Can I say a breach of contract, and we all split and went to Inside Out. Make a long story short.
Did Inside Out come to you, or did you go to them, or how'd that work out?
Derek Schulman, who was the other half of Golden Robot, left Golden Robot and took us with him.
Oh, okay.
And got us on Inside Out, which we had already been on Inside Out for 2 records anyway, so it was kind of a good match. It was a good match, and they financially balanced everything out, and everybody got what was due and what was right, and we went and made this record. And we wanted to make a record and have enough advance money to have something left over, because nobody's rich anymore, and a few bucks help for rent. But we spent the whole thing on the record, and gladly so. Don't get me wrong.
It sounds amazing. It's a killer record.
We did. It's a total analog record, except for Pro Tools. Everything went down analog. Everything came out analog. Everything was mastered analog, EQ'd analog, tubes.
Wow.
Tube amps. No digits were used except for Pro Tools. That's it. And we wanted it to be as analog sounding as we could make it. And we made it for people to buy records. We didn't think that people buy CDs anyway, or I don't. And
I did. Well, somebody bought it for me.
Cool. But so it was really geared for vinyl. I do like it streamed. It's more compressed. It's more has more of a modern feel to it. But the record itself, when you put it on a record player, it's supposed to sound like it did back in the 70s.
I'll have to ask my buddy. Dude, were you aware that myself and another guy who's a huge fan, I asked him to be on. He said he might be too nervous to do that, so he deferred.
Get over here, man. What's up?
I know. But his name's Austin Lund, and he actually has a black metal band called Panopticon.
Okay.
And you and King's X are his ultimate favorite band. Huge influence on him. He and I. I'm sorry?
Panopticon.
Yeah. I'll get the information to you.
Please do, because I can't get it around my head. Panopticon.
Panopticon. Panopticon.
Oh, like Pinocchio. Spell it one more time.
Panopticon.
Ticon. Ticon.
Yeah, and
Okay.
his name is Austin Lunn, Lunn, with two N's, and he is your biggest fan in the whole wide world.
I'm
And
gonna look it up too.
well, I'm going to get you some information. I'll get you some
Okay.
links through your manager.
Okay.
And what I wanted to add, he actually asked me a question that I was not aware of this. That there was an album that you guys had for Atlantic that they rejected. Is that something you're aware of or no?
Nope.
Okay. I'd have
Nope.
to ask him what he was talking about then.
Nope. Never.
But he thought there was an album that you guys did that was rejected. So, a couple quickies here. 2023 is going to be 40 years, right? But actually, it's not because you were together even before that, right?
Well, as a band, we got together in 1980, I'm sure. Ty knows the date.
So we're at 42 years then.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow. And it's always been the three of you guys, except for in the very beginning when you had a fourth guitarist. And you realize that's insanely rare, right?
Yeah.
Who does that? Nobody does that. And Rush maybe might be and they lost one guy very early on too.
ZZ Top,
ZZ
Top, U2, and Aerosmith.
U2. That's right. But I mean, you're in rarefied air with that.
Cheap Trick held on for a long time, and then Buddy left.
Buddy left. That's right. Yeah.
Bunny.
How does it feel for you to know that you've had this incredible bond with Ty and Jerry that has lasted all this time?
I guess it's the only connection to knowing what it's like to be a part of someone's life. Jerry said it's like a marriage. You know, I mean, we've spent more time with each other than we've spent probably with anybody in our lives. We love each other as brothers, and the music that we make, we know there's something special, but we hate each other as much as we love each other. We know how to get along with each other because of our hatred towards each other. And we would die for each other. And
that's a beautiful thing, man. That's a beautiful thing.
Stand for each other. Yeah, it's something that I've never experienced in anything else in my life. You know.
I got 3 quick ones for you, Doug, because I want to get you out of here because you've been super gracious. First one is, can you speak at all about, you had to cancel a European tour that you had planned. Can you speak at all about what's going on with Ty in terms of, is everything okay?
Ty has some kind of immune disease thing that is ongoing right now, and he's had to get a lot of tests done, and they said that it wouldn't be good for him to get on a tour bus for a month in Europe in the summer. He could catch anything, you know, it's like all this stuff. So we canceled it. And then the last show, we've been going out doing the weekend things.
Right.
2, 3 shows.
Yep.
We did the Texas thing, and the last day he wasn't feeling good, and he took a COVID test and found out he had COVID that morning. So we had to cancel the Houston show. And now he's home. He got in a car wreck last week, or it was the week before last. A guy hit him broadside, hit and run, ran a stoplight. He's got, like, his skull is popped open pretty bad. He had a concussion. I think he's out of the hospital now, and I think he did announce it. So if anybody's interested, go read up about it if you want.
Man.
So we won't be playing for a while, I can see, and he's got to heal out. Bless his heart.
Well, yeah, I mean, all our love to Ty, because what a guy. I mean, I met him. He's just as nice as you, and you guys are so good to your fans. Real quick, can you talk about your relationship with Dime and Vinny, like when you met him and how that went through? Because I mean, everybody knows them as these crazy partiers, but I think everybody knows they're just heart of gold kind of guys.
Yeah. When Out of Silent Planet came out, they had an in-store in Dallas, and their power metal had just come out. And so we did an in-store together in Dallas, which is the two bands hung out at a music store and talked to people. And that's where we first met. After that, whoever was in town playing, the other band would come hang, or go back and forth, and we all got to be good friends. I'd go by his house. Been this Christmas party with him. I sang Goldilocks and Rex's wedding. Geez, just so much stuff.
How many black tooth grins has he made you drink?
Oh, I lost count on that. I went to see him in Germany one time, and I remember laying underneath the monitor board on the side of the stage. I couldn't stand up. I had drank so many beers.
Oh, shit.
And I threw up when I got back to the hotel in Germany. I remember this all over the floor. And oh my goodness. I remember one time I was so drunk, Rex wanted me to hear his bass tone. And they're playing in front of a whole, arena of people. And I'm standing outside the stage. He says, get up here and hear this. I'm not walking on stage to listen to you. He grabs me playing with one hand and grabs my arm and pulls me out there and stands me in front of his rigs. and then Diamond's doing a lead. And he looks around at me and he starts playing and says, look at me. He said, I'm ripping you off. Watch me. And I'm thinking, well, I loved him. And I mean, I love all those guys. But we all inspired each other and pushed each other. Rex and Dime talked about how they drive to gigs playing King's X and stuff. And
what do you think about the tribute shows? Have you seen any of the stuff?
I just seen what's on the tube, and I miss those guys, and I love them, and the crowds are loving it, and it's a good thing, Hey,
I think Phil sounds better than he sounded in a long time, man. And Zach,
that's true. What I love is watching twice as many people that are going out now to see bands, watching them play for 40,000 people and everybody knows the words.
Yeah.
And it's 20 years later, 25 years, and it's just so wonderful to see how things last. When I go out to see a lot of bands that come to town, Alice in Chains or Stone Temple Pilots, and I mean everybody, Motley Crue, everybody comes to town now. It's like they're playing the gigantic domes. No more just big places. It's like, dude, it ain't fun even. It's like,
well, a good example of that, Doug, is Porcupine Tree. They went away for 11 years.
What the fuck happened?
They're fucking playing to 6,000 people at the goddamn Greek. I was like, what the fuck happened,
dude? One of my friends, Randy McStein, plays in the band now.
Yes, Randy.
And I went to see them last time they were here, and I mean, we opened for them about 10 years ago, and they're like 2,000 seaters.
Yeah, you opened for them in Philly at the Electric Factory, and that's a max 3,000. There might have been 1,500 there. Yeah,
right. And it's like going, and it kind of depressed me too again, because before King's X went back out, everywhere I'd go, I'm going, everybody's doubling what they did before, and I'm thinking we're gonna play the same old shitholes again. And we hit Dallas. And we played Trees. It was packed, but it's not a really big place. And then we played Austin, and we packed that place, but it's not a big place either. But we got to Houston, and we played the Warehouse, and we had 1,100 tickets sold. We ain't done that in a long time. And also when we went out to, we did our Tennessee tour, we call it.
Yeah, right.
Nashville, it was a great place. It was a big place. We sold it out, and it was a top notch. We had the lights and everything, instead of just little shithole clubs. But we were doing some good stuff, and so we're encouraged. I mean, Ty's sick and all the problems he's had, but we were ready to get back out there because I mean they're coming out. People want to see us again.
People want to see shows, and they're willing to pay.
They are
willing to go out.
They are.
Real quick, man. Two last things for you. The one is, what do you like? What fucking deal did you make to be 72 and look like you're 42, bro? Like, what is going on with that? Like, what is your secret recipe for? I know you smoke a lot of weed, so don't say that's it, because there's, I get that, and I do myself from time to time. But what are you doing health wise? I know you eat pretty clean and you exercise a lot. Talk a little bit about that regimen there.
I eat really clean, super clean, and I exercise a lot. Yes. I work on keeping a positive energy going, best I can. But the bottom line is it runs in my family, and I'm just sort of got the double dose of it, sort of. My dad's family doesn't age, and my mom's family doesn't age. And I'm the only child of my mom and dad.
Your mom, didn't she pass away recently, and she was like 90 something?
She was 90, and she smoked cigarettes since she was 21.
No shit.
And but she died early, and I was really surprised because all the relatives die in their 90s, late 90s. My Aunt Martha is 104 right now.
That's insane, man.
And
wow.
And she looks like she's about 50.
God damn.
So
it's all genetics?
It is a lot genetics. I have 14 cousins and 2 uncles. I mean, an uncle and an aunt who are exactly my age, and none of us look old. I still look younger than them just because I live a cleaner life. But they're all skinny. They might have a little gut and shit like that, but they haven't taken care of themselves, or one's on drugs and been doing crack for the last 20 years. And he looks a little older, but he's still skinny,
Wow.
Yeah, so I think I kind of knew that I had some good genes, or I was so obsessed with staying healthy that I started paying attention at an early age. At a very early age, when I was around 21, I started watching what I ate, not eating, but eating the right foods that
eating clean. Right.
Eating clean gives you, I've never wanted to starve myself or not eat. I'd love to pick myself out, but if, it's got to have the most nourishment in it, or I won't waste my time on it. Anyway, yeah, but I'm lucky nowadays at my age. There's a routine that I have, a lot of herbs.
Do you hit the gym every day, or how much
do
you hit the gym?
No. There's no hitting the gym. I get up every day and do 25 push-ups, 25 sit-ups, 25 curls, 25 everything, or as many as I feel like doing. Do 10 push-ups and then get up and get my coffee and do 10 more push-ups.
Right.
Just get your body going. I stand in front of my stereo and put on a disco song, and stand there and almost like dance in place.
Get some cardio.
Yeah, get that. I'll do that for 10. I'll do that for 10 minutes. I got a rower. I'll row for, about 100 rows. Nothing strenuous. Just get your body going.
Just keep it moving a little bit. Yeah,
get it warmed up, and don't sit down a lot. I most of my desks are standing up. Mostly everything I do is standing up. I'll sit down and eat, but most of the time I try to stand up. That's very important. And walking. I walk a lot. I love to walk. But yeah, take care of yourself, because you love yourself, even though you might not tell yourself that you love yourself, but you do, because you want to please yourself. And when you find out the benefits of doing this, you'll want to do it, and you'll feel good that you're doing it to yourself. Does that make any sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely, man. I think the most important thing you said there, though, was trying to keep positive energy, because I'm a guy that unfortunately suffers from anxiety pretty bad all my life, and that's nothing but negative energy. But I try to now take it and turn it in a positive way. That's why I'm doing these interviews and these in-depth interviews, which you've been so gracious with your time. But I want to get to know the artist and the person, and I take that, like, before we started, I was so anxious, and then you didn't show up, and I'm like, what happened? What did I do? Did I screw this up? And then I hit Alex up with an email. He's like, he's coming. He forgot. But I was so nervous to talk to you, even though I've talked to you before. And I'm like, why are you being nervous? Doug is like one of the sweetest, kindest, coolest guys. What are you nervous about? it's just my brain. It's
Did
how
you
it
calm
works,
down a
right?
little? Did you calm down a little
Oh
when you
yeah,
did
yeah,
that?
I did. Once.
Because that's what I do when I have anxiety. I've learned to talk myself out. Luckily, knock on wood, is as soon as the thought comes, I'll push it right out. The day when I realized when I was 70 and I'm gonna die one day, and it was reality, and
Right.
then all I could think about was my death and what's gonna and how it's gonna happen. And all of a sudden, I started having panic, and my heart started beating. And I stopped myself and said, "Wait a minute, wait a minute. This is something that happens to everybody. Everybody dies, and it's gonna happen to you. So get over it right now and get on with your life and fuck this shit." And I went to sleep that night and says, I am not going to live the rest of my life with that in the back of my mind. And it hasn't come back.
Can I tell you something very personal?
Yeah.
So I am terminally ill, actually, and I found out back in April that I have a neurological condition called autonomic neuropathy, and it's a heavy deal. It's a degenerative disease that kills
Mm.
you. I probably had it about 8 years. It usually kills you
Mm-hmm.
within 10 years. So
Wow.
what you just said was very important because what I've been doing the last couple of months is despite how bad I feel or how sick I feel, and I feel sick and bad all the time because my peripheral nervous system is deteriorating.
See.
It's something we could talk about privately. I don't want to get too
Mm-hmm.
heavy
Mm-hmm.
here, but what I did is taken that anxiety, that death fear, that fear of the unknown,
Uh-huh.
and try to channel it into something positive, which is
Right.
meeting guys, talking to someone like you that's a huge inspiration for me. I really want you to know you are a huge inspiration to me. Your music has meant more to me than most music out there. So I don't know if that means a thing to you, but to me,
It
it's
means everything
important.
to me. It means
It's
everything to
important.
me.
So I, I know that my time. I have a neurology appointment on Wednesday morning that is going to be heavy. I know it,
Mm.
and I'm trying to brace myself for it. But that anxiety, it's hard, man, to talk yourself out of that fear, right? Because
Yeah.
you talked
Yeah.
about the fear, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's if you live your life in constant fear, you're just not living.
Right.
So I've taken all the energy that I possibly can and channeled into doing stuff like this. And I got a bunch of interviews like Kelly Schaefer from Atheist and Craig Cicero from Forbidden. And that's what I'm trying to build this channel into something cool that people want to come to and look at and go, man, that interview with Doug Pinnick was so fucking cool because it's two guys talking about life and their life experiences. And that's
Mm.
kind of what I can't thank you enough for giving me this time that you did.
You're welcome.
The last thing I want to talk about is fucking heavy though, dude. It hits me right here. And I wonder how it hits you. When you are playing, I'm getting like emotional about it, man. When you are playing Goldilocks live, you rarely ever have to sing one single word. I got to know what that feels like because when I watch the videos, and I've been in that audience, man, and I've been part of that experience, and it's a beautiful, beautiful, life affirming experience, right? When I see every guy in the crowd, these grown men singing that song and getting teary eyed like I do, what does that feel like for you, Doug?
um, I feel two things because I'm a yin and yang type person. I just am baffled because they're doing it. I'm baffled in a way of this is cool as fuck. Um, and then my thoughts are, well, everybody's not singing, so maybe we shouldn't do this anymore. Or are we doing this too much and people don't want it, are getting tired of it? Or, I start finding all these negative things and then I have to throw it out the window and just start looking at people and watching them belting out the words. And then I have to stand there and go, I can't believe these people are still doing this. And I smile and just go, You know, what do you do? I don't know. That's a weird answer, but I guess it's like I don't know what I feel. But I feel it.
Dude,
Yeah. There's no words to describe it. It's like, you know what it feels like, and I don't know how to describe this either. But when I was around 4 or 5, I think it was, I sang at church a solo thing, and I barely remember singing, but I remember vividly my aunt came up to me and she got on her knees. She was my great uncle's new wife. She got on her knees and she started speaking in tongues, and she started crying and said, God has given you a gift. Then she said, God, make him this and make him that. And you know how people do when they start praying for you. She started asking God to do all these things for me. And that feeling that I got from her of, I don't understand this, is the same feeling I get when people stand there and sing Goldilocks back to me. I don't know what I'm supposed to feel, but I know it's something happening and it's a good thing. And I don't feel bad about it. Does that make sense to you?
Doug, I can't, like you, I can't really put into words what that experience means to me, the times that I've been part of it, and
Mm-hmm.
even the times that I'm not there and I'm watching it on YouTube and I'm watching
Mm-hmm.
other grown men, and usually it's men. I mean, let's be honest. There's a lot of women that their girlfriends will get
Very
dragged out to
few.
the huh?
Very few girls.
Yeah, but the girls that are out there are with their husbands or their boyfriends usually,
Mm-hmm.
right? But that's okay because Rush had a career based on that most of their
And they
career,
did.
right?
Mm-hmm.
But when I am part of that experience, man, it's a fucking religious
It's
experience for
awesome.
me. And
I understand.
it's I want to thank you and Ty and Jerry for doing what you do, man, because it means so much to someone like me. And I'm not the only guy out there, man. There are a lot of us that you may not have a million fans and sell a million records, but those people that you've touched, Doug, you can't buy that, man. You
I
cannot
know.
buy that. And
I know.
it's important to me that you guys continue doing what you do as long as you want to continue doing it. And you guys for 14 years, you didn't put any music out, and I thought, well, that's the end. And I get why, because the music landscape has changed dramatically in the last 20 years. As far as record companies and pushing product, it's now the album is kind of superfluous to
Yeah.
getting out there on tour, right?
Yeah, but we just thought we didn't have anything good enough up to par that we thought to give to people. That's the only reason we never made a record. Or we would have.
Well, I disagree. This fits. Oops,
Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying. When we did this, we were ready to make a record, and that's what you got. It took 14 years.
Well, thank you for that, because
You're
and for
welcome.
every King's X fan, we're just glad that you're back, and we hope that I hope I can get out to see you. I hope I'm well enough to get out and
I
see
hope
you.
so too.
I know you play Sellersville a lot, the Sellersville Theater, and that's a neat
Mm,
place to see you at. And
yeah.
I will get my information to your to Alex to get to you
Okay.
if you want to get in contact with me
Okay.
privately or whatever, man. I this has been a beautiful interview, and you're an amazing person, Doug.
Thanks. You too.
All right, brother. I will let you go. Everybody, go out and get this album, man. Buy it. Buy an album. Buy physical product. Get out and see King's X, because they kick fucking ass live. You know it. I know it. We all know it. Go see this band, because one day they're not going to be here.
That's true.
I mean, it's the reality, and we gotta get what we can get while the getting's good, right?
Good. Right. The getting's good. You
All
got to
right,
go
brother.
through it
Thank
to
you
get to
so
it. See
much.
you.
All right, man. Take care. You have a good
All right.
day.
All
Oh,
right.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's.
Back at you, and everybody who's on listening or watching.
All right. See you, Doug.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye.
Where's the stop button?